Hello everyone, welcome to episode 101 of FPL BlackBox. We've cleared the century and into the next century with none other than Mr. Luke Williams. How are you, Luke?
Hey, how's it going? Was that a play on Luke Skywalker? Because that would be the usual thing that comes with my name, or was that not intentional?
Completely intentional. Yeah.
Actually, wait, that's in the past, isn't it? Oh, anyway.
I don't even
Hi.
know. I don't even know what pun you're trying to make. What?
Skywalker, Luke, into the next century. Come on, you said into...
Is that what he says? Is that it?
No, but you said century. Don't worry,
Oh.
You said century and yeah, I got lost. Hi, everyone.
Well, it's a good start into the new century. Clearly, we're clearly in sync going into this episode. Hi, everyone. No Mark this week. He is taking a bit of a sabbatical. So Luke will be joining the FPL BlackBox team. I say team, it's just me. He'll be joining me from now until the end of the season, which is great. What a signing. What a signing. Good to have you, Luke.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think, ironically, Mark couldn't make it because he's got a lot of stuff going on at work. And I think I was almost there myself. I think I have to get a replacement for me today. I've literally come straight from work, straight to the chair, no preparation, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Obviously, channeling your inner Southerns. You give me a call. I'm like, you're right. Like, I'm stressed. It's like, oh God, not this again. God, already got rid of one stress head. Don't need another one coming in. We've got loads to talk about. Obviously, today we've had the confirmation that Rashford is going to be out. We're not sure how long he's going to be out for. We think a couple of games. He's definitely going to miss Thursday and the weekend, unless it's all a ruse by Ten Hag, which we have seen before. But he's talking up Martial. It looks like Rashford's going to miss out for a bit. So there's kind of decisions to make about what to do with him, given they've got this double coming up in 34. I'm on my wildcard. My wildcard is played. I have made my changes. I don't think my team's going to change very much unless, Luke, you taught me into some weird players.
No, you sent me a screenshot and it looked pretty good.
Ooh.
I wanted to tear it apart, believe me, but yeah, it looked good to me.
Yeah, I like that. It feels like quite a good week to play it, given that people are scrambling around a bit with Shaw and Maddison and this Rashford news now. So hopefully I can get a bit ahead, because I lost out from not playing it a little while ago. So we'll talk about that, and then we've got all the normal stats tables to discuss. And I think everyone is very keen to hear your opinions on what City players are going to start. This is where you really earn your bread.
Bread? and then earn my bread and then get abused for weeks on end if it goes wrong. Yeah, no, I'm fully versed with that. It's fine. I like it. I like it when City come back on the radar. There's been like a little period of time where I'm nearly always irrelevant anyway, but very irrelevant because Man City have not been top of the agenda. But yeah, coming back onto the radar. So hopefully I can shed a little bit of light. But I think most people are in agreement, right? We'll get to it, I'm sure.
We'll get to it. I don't know. I've got no idea. who's going to start. I don't know who.
You surprise me.
Yeah, but well, we'll see what you say at the end. And that's probably going to be the City player you taught me out of when it comes to the wild card in a bit. No official sponsor this week, but I wanted to give a shout out to FPL Merch, who we've partnered with. Don't know if anyone's seen FPL Merch stuff like in general. He does like mugs and all kind of cool FPL stuff, which we've showcased on BlackBox a bit. His newest kind of product are these poker chips, which are really cool. They kind of commemorate your successes or failures in FPL. Luke, you'd be a rich man if you got your hands on some of these poker chips, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Is that because the lesser ones make you more rich, or
no.
Yeah, of course.
No.
You wouldn't do that to me.
I wouldn't do that. No, but they're really cool. So yeah, check them out. There's a link in the description below, and also you get 20% off your order of the chips if you use the code FPL BlackBox 20. So yeah, give them a look. Give Merch a look in general, because it's always good to support people in the FPL community as well. Right, let's take a look at Gameweek 30. We're both on red arrows, but we're both on small red arrows. But it's a bit of a meh game week, wasn't it? Let's do yours. I'll do mine first on the screen. I got 56 points. I bought in Haaland for Kane. I captained him, like a lot of people did. Kane scored in. Right, before we get too much into it, that Brighton Spurs game is the biggest joke of a match I have ever seen in all my years of watching football. I have never seen anything like that before. Incompetence doesn't even cover what happened in that match.
I've literally given up on. I don't like VAR, and I never have, and it's for personal reasons. I think I understand its implication, but yeah, it's just run by amateurs, isn't it? And I know sometimes I think a lot of people get upset when you say VAR, but I think we use it as a term to just the whole bracket.
Everyone always says, "Oh, it's not the technology; it's the people." We know, but we can't keep saying it's the people. We know what we mean.
Yeah, we're referring to the system in general, aren't we? Be that the officials, whoever, but. I don't know, it just doesn't. I don't like it. Full stop. I think if they are going to do it, they need to do it better. I think that's what everyone comes to the conclusion of. But some of the things that we witness now, it's almost like referees just. I know they don't want to make decisions quite a lot of the time because they know if they make a decision, essentially what they're made to back them up, haven't they? That's what they do. They'll let it run. They'll let VAR look at it. Oh, there's not enough to change it sometimes, but it's just so inconsistent. You just don't know which way. At least that's how it appears to the untrained eye.
Yeah.
And that game in particular. I mean, maybe it makes it worse for you support Brighton. We've all got Brighton assets. We want our Brighton players to do well. But yeah, there seemed like there was some pretty highly contentious ones.
Taking away the Brighton bias, I've never seen a game with that many controversial like VAR calls. I mean, at best it's incompetence. At worst it's corruption. Like there's no other way of looking at it. I mean, you look at that penalty. You look at the penalty. There is no way any sort of referee can look at that decision from any angle and think it's not a penalty. It is the most clear penalty you could ever witness in a game. How can you be that incompetent to not spot it? I just don't get it.
Well, it just happens too regularly. I think there's too many times when there'll be a clear penalty shout and there's just no time spent on it. And sometimes you'll get like an update, oh, they've looked at it and there was nothing there. And you're like, oh. And then other times they seem to spend 3 minutes looking at something that's plainly obvious. And it's just so frustrating. It is frustrating. And yeah, when it's a clear penalty like that, I mean, I don't know enough of the rules to go slagging it off, but it feels like however the rules are set up, they don't work. Like there should be a way that we can say, okay, you have made a mistake. Let's stop the game and sort that out because that is actually what's happened. Whereas they need certain things to have happened to do X, Y, Z. And it's just, it's too much. Yeah.
Well, it's a second apology we've had in the last 6-7 weeks because they drew the wrong lines on Estupinian's goal and that got ruled out.
That was ridiculous.
I mean, it's just a joke at this point. Anyway, enough of that. My Brighton players blanked. Oh well. Vitoba got 2 somehow. Brought Haaland in for Kane and then Kane scored. Salah missed so many chances. It was absolutely unbelievable. And a penalty, and somehow came away from that game with 5 points. I had Tony, who I kept, who also missed a penalty and scored, which again is pretty unbelievable. And then minimal points for my defence: Trippier, Chilwell, Zinchenko, and Kepa on the bench with about 6 points between them. And of course, I benched Henry, who was my only defender who got any points. One of those weeks, Maddison blanked against Bournemouth. You know, it was just a meh week, but only a small red in the end, and on to next week. Speaking of point, I left that open for you to add any wisdom, but no wisdom.
No, there's nothing to add. Dreadful week. Nah, it was all right. It was a very entertaining week. I'll say that in general across football.
I mean, the Arsenal Liverpool match was fantastic, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that was so good. I mean, in terms of our FPL teams, it wasn't good, was it? But in terms of pure entertainment, I think it was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
It just seems like a lot of things have gone wrong that are out of our control, and that's just a common theme with FPL and things in general, isn't it? I think the Man United triple up in particular, if people went there, like Shaw, Rashford, and Fernandes. Rashford ultimately has done pretty well, but now he's got himself injured. Shaw just pretty much straight away has managed to injure himself, and then Bruno Fernandes has turned into a centre back. So it's not ideal, is it? And mix that in with sort of Brighton being fantastic, not being able to actually return the points. You know, you've got...
Maybe there was a word to describe this.
No,
this kind of
I didn't want to say it. I was sort of edging towards it. I mean, how Chilwell's not managed to get points in the recent weeks has been pretty impressive.
I know. But one clean sheet and that's it in about 4 or 5 games, and the rest noughts and ones. Crazy.
And then he gets benched.
I know.
Yeah, Estupiñán I would add to that list as well. I think he's just been really impressive and not really got too much out of it.
Yeah.
And then the missed penalties and stuff were just pure drama.
Tony missing a penalty for the first time. Yeah, absolutely crazy. I mean, you got 58, you got 2 more points than me. You benched March, who would have been your highest scoring player other than Haaland. Sums it up really, doesn't it? But down to 7, you went down about 4,000 places or something, down to 77k.
Yeah, it was close to a grey arrow in the end. It's okay. It is what it is. I think the Salah one was the big difference for me. What I did different to most people, I think, that have followed the similar pattern of wildcarding in 26, is I took a big hit in order to switch Kane to Salah pretty much and get ahead of the curve and get all the players that I wanted in for this run. So it hasn't really worked because Kane has just continued to produce points despite not looking like he was going to get any points. And my players have looked like they've been fantastic, but just not been able to get them, i.e. Salah. But it's been close enough where it hasn't made that much of a difference. So it's nice to have Salah in early, though, because I don't think, well, like you, I think there's quite a few people that want to get him in now. Yeah. So at least we're ahead there. It's more the Man United players now after today we've got to look at and sort out what we're doing with them, I guess, because nobody really wants to. Well, you could argue maybe Fernandes because of the way he's playing, but no one really wants to sell them when they've got these good games and a double coming up, do they?
No, and then you look at the options, other than Rashford, and I mean, I've got, spoiler for my wildcard, I've got like Martinez in my defence.
It doesn't feel great.
Doesn't exactly feel great. Some people considering Martial coming back. I know from experience of owning him early in the season, it's pure pain. Who else really is there? You want to take a punt on someone like Sancho, but don't really want to. You don't really want to risk it. And how are they even going to perform without Rashford in the side? There's lots of question marks around that. So, luckily, the other side of Manchester, also the double game, we have plenty of options for us to consider. So, we'll come on to those in a bit. Mark, I want to keep Mark feeling like he's part of things. He's probably watching at home. Maybe he's having, I don't know, maybe he's on holiday or something, trying to de-stress. And I think he needs to after this game. He had an absolutely miserable game week, 43 points for him, undone some of the good work he's been doing over the weeks. He chose not to go with Haaland, took a punt on Rashford. Was pretty unlucky, actually, with just the assist for Rashford. United created plenty of chances in that game.
I never really considered captaining Rashford because I didn't think they would do that well. Obviously, he's a fine pick. He's playing up front. Man United, great fixture. We know all the good reasons why, but I wasn't really feeling it. But then, that game, he was very unfortunate. And Man United should have scored a whole heap more. So I would say that is unfortunate. I probably got that wrong beforehand. Did he give any reason as to why he didn't go Haaland? Is it just trying to be different, or did he not think that he would play? I mean, that was...
he did touch on it last week. He said, with coming back from the injury, with Alvarez's form, and with these kind of Bayern Munich games, he wasn't really feeling it. I think it was also difficult for him to move for him. Like he had to take Kane out, for example. Maybe he wasn't feeling that. I mean, I did that, but it didn't feel great. In fact, I've wildcarded to bring him back in because I don't want to be going to this Bournemouth game without him. So, I mean, I can see why there was maybe a bit of reluctance to go for Haaland, but going into City away at Southampton with no City, that felt a bit wrong to me. But easy to say with hindsight.
Yeah, no, I think you can justify it. His team's fine, isn't it? It's just Haaland's just what more needs to be said. I mean, if he's on the pitch and you haven't got him in your team as captain, you're probably in trouble most weeks.
Yep.
It's just the reality.
Yep. He's broken more records now, hasn't he? Most goals in a calendar year by a Premier League player in all competitions.
Impressive.
Yeah. There's so many games left to go. Absolutely crazy. People saying, well, not a few people, just Mohammed saying, why are they whispering? Is the sound all right? Sounds all right my end. Let me know in the chat if we're a bit quiet. I don't know what I can do about it, but I can try and do something if we are.
Can shout.
Yeah, just talk a bit louder. Great in the goods. You're an honorary member of this now, Luke, until the end of the season. Nice. But forget about all the rank changes. Forget about everything else. We've had a monumental moment for one of the great and the good, which is Joe at 11,791 in the world got a grey arrow. Did not move up or down.
That is so Joe. He's so boring. No offense, Joe.
I messaged him about it. He was like, "This is my dream." He was like, "I've just completed FPL," and I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I mean, I don't know how you get a grey arrow at 11,791. That is impressive. We've seen them, down in hundreds or maybe even like 1K, but to be outside the top 10K and get one, that is wild.
King of the Dullards.
King of the Dullards. He has now officially got the crown of King of the Dullards after getting the green arrow, definitely. Look at all the Haaland captainers. The only one really of note to go against him was Ben Crellin, who went with Rashford. No offence, Mark, who also went with Rashford. Magnus continues his massive slide down the ranks. Went for Saka, captain away at Liverpool. That was very, very left field.
Did you know he's
Didn't
given
work.
up though?
Has he given up?
Yeah, he came out and said there was
Did
like a
he?
video going around where when there was problems with the FPL site and it all crashed. I can't remember when that was now. It wasn't too long ago. It was around maybe just before World Cup or maybe just after. I don't know. But yeah, he basically said that he got done over, and at that point, he's kind of just playing very casually and just doing whatever. So I think
Well,
that's
Mark will be delighted with that because he's still ahead of him. There you go, Mark. You've really got to catch up to him. Now, there's not much in it now, about 25 points or something between them both.
Magnus has got a gift of usually just finding these random captains, though, and so it's not even an easy task, even if he's given up, because knowing him, it probably just gives him more license to absolutely jam one out of nowhere.
Look at Saka through on goal in the last minute.
Yeah,
couldn't get picked out, but yeah, that was a crazy game of football. I'm 41 points behind you.
Yeah, we were level though. Didn't you post in the chat like literally a week or 2 weeks ago saying you're ahead of me?
Nah, don't remember that.
I do. It only took about 14 red arrows in a row for me for you to be level, but then after that, I soon sorted myself out.
The wild card has been a success. After Mark and I did the pod slating it came good for people. I think it's probably about 30 points, I'd say. I mean, I didn't captain Saka for his big haul, but working out the kind of averages, I think that wildcard was probably good for about 30 points, which I'd say is a pretty successful chip. I'm not sure mine's going to get that, but we can hope, and we'll come onto it a bit later. Let's have a look at the fixtures from Ben Krellin. So obviously we've got 31 fixtures this week, just a boring game week now. In 32, we've got a couple of blanks for some of the big teams. Brighton, Chelsea, City and United all blank. We're going to see many free hits being played that week. If you haven't got your free hit and you've got the likes of, Shaw and Rashford, triple Brighton, Kepa in goal, maybe Chilwell as well, you might be in a bit of trouble, right?
Yeah, it's just a no-brainer, I think, for a team that's set up that way. We've only got a certain amount of weeks left where you could increase your sort of default score to what is potential with the free hits, or the difference between the two. And losing players is a very easy way to sort of guarantee a low score, isn't it? It's one of the most consistent ways, because we can all say that player X can do whatever on any given game week if they play, and even if they're a bad player, they could just get lucky and get points. But if you haven't got players on the pitch and you just have less fixtures to play, then it's generally not good. And the robot, especially if you put it through review, will say, no, you want your players on the pitch for obvious reasons. So yeah, if you're missing sort of 2-3 players and you aren't able to field, I mean, maybe 10 would be fine depending on your team and your setup for future and what the free hit can give. But if you're looking at 9-8 players and you're having to take hits, it's very hard to see where else you would use that and benefit. So
I mean, Liverpool are the obvious team to target, because if you haven't got the free hit, because they've got Forest at home, obviously a great fixture, and then they've got the double in 34. So, hits for the likes of Nunez, Salah, Van Dijk, Robertson, Trent, these kind of guys, that they could be the moves that pay off. But if you haven't got the free hit and you haven't, you look around at kind of the other fixtures, these are fun fixtures for us to target on the free hit. West Ham versus Bournemouth, Palace versus Everton. I'm Leicester versus Wolves. I'm happy to get players in for these games just to try and hit, something a bit lucky. But I don't want these bloody players going forward. Whereas you're going to have to be taking them, into 33 and 34 and beyond if you're not free hitting. So I really think free hitters this week, we should see a substantial rank increase. Easy to say, but with less games, with hits being played, and with some quite good looking games on paper, I'm looking forward to the free hit in 32. I think it's going to be successful. I'm saying it now.
Yeah. I mean, the triple Liverpool and triple Arsenal is pretty obvious, isn't it? I think, probably Salah captain or Saka captain, but probably Salah for most, I would suggest. And just that alone is quite hard for us who have followed this path where we've probably jettisoned most of our Arsenal players. So it'd be good to have them back for the one good game. We can hope that they can smash it. But yeah, just having that triple Liverpool and triple Arsenal won't be common amongst people who aren't free hitting.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, you could even go triple Arsenal attack, for example, hope for a really big score. Jesus, Martinelli and Saka. Very few people are going to have those three kind of going into it. I mean, you could even, take Kane out, for example, on the free hit. He's got Newcastle away and try and, find a gem somewhere else. Yeah, really exciting week. Obviously, we're talking about that more in BlackBox next week. In 34, this is the kind of one that we want to be building towards, though. You've got a double for Brighton. You've got a double for Fulham. Not too much investment in that. Liverpool, City, United, and West Ham. But we're in the business end now, aren't we? What's your target? Top 10k still?
I mean, that's what people like, don't they? They still quote it even after all these many years, and the fact that the game's increased in the number of players so much. But it's nice. I wouldn't mind having that. But to be honest, I'm not too bothered about it. You know me. I've talked about it many times. I would want to win it, and outside that, I'm not particularly bothered. I just want to, I suppose, just be respectable in the game. So anywhere from where I am is absolutely fine. I'd just go as high as I can possibly aim. But yeah, I think people do get too hung up on it. Ultimately, the game, we are trying to win it. I think it's only really that important if it's personal to you, or if you're a content creator and it adds some weight to your channel or your opinion or your growth, and that's fair enough. But other than that, it's really a personal thing, I think, because for most people, I think they would give it up just to win the game. So, each to their own.
Well, Mark and I learned that the worse you do, the more views you get. So
that's good to know.
That's quite a nice place to be. We don't want to be as kind of somewhere in the middle, which is where we both are.
Have you seen those people who, I don't know if they still do it now, but I presume they do. They go for like the lowest possible team value, or the most hits every week, and they have like minus points and stuff. Yeah, maybe that's the thing to do then.
Yeah, I think I saw one where someone managed to triple captain, I don't know, like a Jonathan Walters or someone, when they got like -6 points or something.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that seems like a much more fun way. Well, imagine being annoyed when your player like gets an assist.
Get some decent returns out of nowhere, because it does happen.
Rodri gets a wonder goal or something. You're like, oh no.
What a goal that was as well from the Champions League. Bedrenak would have been the worst one, wouldn't he? I think he's got the lowest score ever.
Yeah, he has. That's right. Yeah, as against Leicester, right, when he got sent off.
That was right.
Yep. Cool. Right, let's look at some data. So we'll start with team data. Attack, Brighton still top of the chart, 2.2. We all know that their attack is really good. Really interesting game against Chelsea coming up at the weekend, especially depending on what happens to Chelsea tonight. They're playing Real Madrid in the Champions League. I don't know what's going to happen in that. I mean, I assume they're going to get battered, but you never really know with them. They could pull something out of the bag, and then they're going into Brighton with the league, top 10 is probably their most realistic target, letting them pushing in for Europe. So Champions League kind of means everything to them. So I'm hopeful that we can get a result against them. Second is Arsenal. It's really clicking for them at the moment. I mean, it has been all season, but particularly, with Jesus back and the like. I mean, what do you think about the Arsenal attackers? I mean, Martinelli is on 14 goals this season?
Ridiculously
now,
good.
absolutely crazy since everyone sold him. Do you think he's the weapon of choice now?
Well, I think the most impressive thing about Arsenal really is the fact that they can now rotate their options, and obviously slightly changes the way the team sets up and the shape, and if it's more of a false nine setup or Jesus drifting left, or even Nketiah when he was in, and they all just seem to be able to make it work.
Yeah.
They adapt to it and continue to do well. So it's crazy. I mean, I suppose with Jesus back, I think considering he's been out for that, he was out for a long period, and now he's come back. I think I'm right in saying he started both the games in a row. Is that right?
Yep.
That surprises me a bit, because as good as he is, I thought they would take more care with him because they'd be worried about it. So maybe that speaks volumes for the fact that Arteta really rates him and wants him in that position. Even when he's got the likes of Trossard, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, he was asked about it, and he just said, I have to make the best decision for the team. So clearly, Jesus is ahead of him.
Well, I suppose it can. I mean, like his tutor Pep. I suppose he will be partly based on the opponent and what he thinks will be the best setup to beat the game. But I don't think he's as much with Arteta, because we've seen that he's picked a consistent team throughout the whole season. So he pretty much thinks his best team is also his best tactical team, if that makes sense. Yep. So maybe not so much. So yeah, Jesus is, and then he's one that, especially in the free hit, if we think he's going to be playing, he'll be like a sexy one to get, because I don't think anyone not on free hit will find that very easy to get to him at all. Still, there's still a little bit of worry that on any given game week, I suppose one of them would drop out. Trossard was this time. Will he come back in and one of them drop out? But it's hard to know.
It seems unlikely, I think, even at the moment, given they're not in any other cup competitions, and they're playing so well, with that first choice from four. I mean, I think it is something that Trossard will be a bit miffed about, given his performances. But he's not a sub, Luke. He's an impactor.
It's an impactor, right? Got it.
Don't forget that.
Yeah, so I think you can be fairly comfortable in the likes of Martinelli. Because I haven't looked at it personally, because I'm doing the free hit 32s thing. I think a lot of people are looking at potentially doing Rashford to Martinelli if they don't have a free hit. I might have that right, because Arsenal obviously play in that spot, and then it's getting back on Arsenal or getting them in. The fixtures are meh, but then they get better towards the end of the season, don't they? So it's understandable. There's not too many midfield options, and he would be right up there.
Well, the choice is people are moving to Martinelli, but people are also moving to Grealish as well. City are third in the attacking stats. I mean, I don't need to say how great they've been lately. They were absolutely incredible against Southampton. They're absolutely incredible in the Champions League as well. They play a Leicester team who, to say they're on the slide is a bit of an understatement. And they just brought in Dean Smith, John Terry and Craig Shakespeare to sort things out. They're going to get absolutely battered, aren't they?
I mean, it feels underwhelming. We always talk about a manager bounce. Like, is that possible?
Oh, God, I don't think Dean Smith's ever given any kind of bounce to anyone in their step. He's people who listen to BlackBox will know we are not huge fans of Dean Smith, and John Terry's my least favourite ever player, and Craig Shakespeare's a bit of a snake, isn't he? So,
common thoughts. Is it least favourite player or least favourite person?
Bit of both. I'm not going to lie.
No, he was a good player. Come on.
Well, I'm using player in terms of, I can't fault his defending ability, but I can fault his character. Anyway, don't get me started on John Terry. Anyway, people are moving for Grealish. So Grealish and Martinelli is the big decision for a lot of people. I mean, Mahrez is also a consideration as well, given that he's missed out in the Champions League. I can't ever recommend him without a bit of a smile on my face, because it looks like he's nailed on, right? He didn't play in the Champions League, because Bernardo Silva was favoured and played really well. Surely he comes in for this game against Leicester?
Well, you want me to say that now? I can go on it now. I think he probably does play Leicester, to be fair.
He's got to, right? He's got to.
I wouldn't say got to. They're definitely competing on the right wing. That's one of the spots in the Man City team, and it has been for a while, that you can't ever be 100% sure on. Bernardo Silva, I always thought Bernardo Silva would play Bayern, because historically Mahrez has been the Champions League guy, but I think versus really, really good teams, and we saw versus Leipzig, he played Silva there when they won 7-0. I think he favoured him, and I think you saw why. I think he's run like ridiculous kilometres last. He was fantastic, wasn't he? So it's more of a control and defensive approach versus the better sides. Now, do they need that versus Leicester? And Bernardo Silva's just run his heart out. Mahrez usually does pretty well versus Leicester as well, given the previous club situation. So I think Mahrez will play, but the point is you can't ever be 100% sure, as you know, as with this sort of things. But it's also beyond that. I mean, if you want to bring him in for Leicester, that's fine. But then once the Champions League, I suppose it will pick back up at the semis, because it looks like they're going through. But you can't say on any given week that for sure Mahrez or Silva will play, because that's one of the most contested positions. Then add the fact that Foden is not far away from returning, and Foden was playing right wing because he couldn't make way and take Grealish out because of the way he's playing. So I would imagine when Foden is back and he's available, he will be competing for the right wing mostly as well. So that's suddenly three players that can play there. So I'd love Mahrez for Leicester. Outside that, I'd be worried.
Yeah, I mean, Grealish is the back-to-back 12 pointers. People are a bit concerned that he doesn't start against Leicester. Who else can play there?
No one can really play that. I mean, Pep could just do a Pep, right, and maybe just completely change the setup and tactics, but I can't see that happening. The way they've worked out how to play recently with their 3-2-2-3 and getting the right personnel in has transformed their season pretty much, making sure the right players are in those positions and doing it. And no one else can really play left wing. Ultimately, if someone had to play the role, then it's Bernardo Silva, right? We heard Pep Guardiola say Bernardo Silva can play anywhere. He's fantastic. And in the past, he has not necessarily started at left wing, but he's, due to the subs, ended up being over there or drifted over there or played as a false nine and drifted to the left. And so he could do it feasibly, but it's only really going to be, in my mind, if Grealish has picked up an injury or a knock, or he's absolutely exhausted, or something that would hopefully come out in the press conference to say that he's not quite ready for this game or something. Otherwise, I suspect Grealish will play and probably just get, if the 4-5-0 up, he'll just take Grealish off on the 70th minute or something like that. But still probably worth buying as a result.
So Grealish is the play then, you'd say, out of the City attack?
I think it has to be, right. I don't think that's controversial. I think everyone's pretty much of the same opinion. He's the man. I mean, I really like Gundogan. I think he's a good option as well. I just, given his age, I think he's 32, certainly 31 or 32, and he is very...
Old git.
Yeah, I say that like it's old, and I'm sat here, fucking yeah. Anyway, I still think I'm a Premier League footballer deep down inside. Do you have that as well? Like one day I'll just turn. Oh no, you're no good at football. Sorry,
No, I,
shouldn't have embarrassed you.
I definitely don't have that.
No, I still think I'm going to make
take a
it
throw
one
in
day.
successfully, I might get a bit big for my boots.
It's just when you play Football Manager or Champ Manager, and I'm like binning all my players as soon as they hit 30, and I'm that's what I used to do when I was a kid, and now I feel like a little bit sorry for them. It's like I want to keep the last few peak years in them. Like, yeah,
well, I hit 33 this year, and that's the age range I stopped searching for players. When I'm on Football Manager. So
exactly.
That hurt.
And there you go. Yeah. Someone's just put in the chat there, Pablo, 32 is old. I think 32 is old in football these days for an attacker. I think they're getting better, sort of younger and younger. Anyway, he's older comparatively than the options he could play in his position. That's what I was getting at. So as much as I love Gundogan, sorry, is he one of the players who could drop out and he could play Bernardo Silva in that position? Yes, he is. So I think he'll probably play, but you can't be sure. So as a result, I wouldn't take the chance.
Or might we spot the lesser spotted Calvin Phillips?
I don't think so. They've got Sheffield. Is it Sheffield United or Sheffield Wednesday? I think it's Sheffield United, isn't it? I'm pretty sure. I don't want to offend people.
Yeah, Sheffield
fans always get offended when you say it wrong. Yeah, I think that game's going to see the rotation. It's just worked out pretty well with the home-away situation as well. Obviously, they've got 3-0 lead. They can play Leicester. They can go away to Bayern. Pep's talked about travel being an issue in terms of recovery. So after that game versus Bayern, when they travel back from Germany, you imagine that's where the rotation happens, right?
Yep.
Versus Sheffield.
Yep. Sheffield.
I'm just going to say it to irritate people as much. Yeah.
I love that, the Owls fans. United in 5th. The attacking data looks promising for them. The defensive data doesn't, which we'll see in a second. Just wondered what you thought the impact's going to be with Rashford out. I mean, it's not going to be great, is it, when you take out your best player, the player who's scoring all your goals? It's a bit of a stupid question, but how great an impact do you reckon it will have?
I mean, it's undoubtedly a big problem. The one sort of carrot is the fact that Martial came back and instantly just looked good like he does all the time. He does have an ability, Martial, well, not all the time, but he has an ability to be out for massive long periods, come back, and then just suddenly look straight away really good. Like it doesn't always happen, but I felt he looked really good, and he is so important. I mean, when you're comparing yourself to Weghorst, I suppose it's hard not to look at least half decent. But his hold-up play with the ball, the ability to turn on it, to give and go, like straight away trying to pass it into people and then make the move. Him and Rashford have got a fantastic understanding, so it's unfortunate to lose him. So I think United will still be okay as a result of that, but it is a big spot to lose. They have spent loads of money on the wingers. Sancho, you've got Anthony, you have Bruno Fernandes, potentially if he moves back into the number 10 role, if they bring Eriksen back in, or Casemiro's obviously back, like they've still got good players all over. So I think they'll be okay, but there's no doubt that losing Rashford is a problem because he is the goal getter in that team outside Martial.
You want to see another player kind of step up, don't you? You want to see Sancho, okay, Rashford's not there anymore. Sancho deliver on the promise that he had at Dortmund. Anthony deliver on some of the promise. I mean, I don't
particularly rate Anthony personally.
I don't really. I mean, he's he was kind of labelled a bit of a one-trick pony, and that's just all he seems to keep doing. He doesn't seem to be evolving at all. It's just that cut in on the left and shoot and aim for the top corner. And sometimes it goes in, it looks amazing. Other times it doesn't. It looks very easy to defend against.
I'll probably being harsh, but I don't particularly rate him. I think Sancho's the one that we want to all see do well, don't we? Unless you just hate Man United or for whatever reason, I can understand it. But Sancho's obviously the guy who was top of the world at one point. Looks like he could go on and become anything, and it's not quite worked out. But there's definitely a player in there. So you've just got to, I think, persist and keep playing him, because there has been periods where he just hasn't looked good at all, shadow of himself. But now's the opportunity. He's back. He's there. Like keep playing him, and eventually it's just got to work out better than the other options, surely.
Yep. Down the other end of the table, in 15th are Spurs. I mean, look at that big chance per 90, 1.33. There's only 4 teams worse than that, which are Leeds, Fulham, Southampton and Forest. Really struggling to create chances, but it's kind of taking them when they are. It was an absolute wonder goal from Son, something we haven't seen much from him this season, and a pretty tasty goal from Kane as well. But Kane's stats are poor, Tottenham's attacking stats are poor. They've got Bournemouth at home next, but then I guess the question is, what do we do with him after that? Because no double game week, Newcastle away, on a free hit. Is he someone that we can drop? Because we're not going to be investing in anyone else, are we? We're not going to be going near Son or Kulusevski or anyone. But Kane has been so consistent, it's hard to part ways.
It's like a paradox, isn't it? It's just him as a player is so good, but that's one where the eye test will get you, I think. If you watch Spurs and you look at I suppose even the stats, like you mentioned, the stats aren't good either, particularly outside him as a team. It's just a paradox because you just think, how the hell is this guy going to score every game? And he just manages. Generally it's a header from a set piece, a penalty, which has been his favourite couple, and then we've got the finish like he did last week, the sort of square back. But I suppose that you could say that for most strikers, right? But that was an example of, give that chance to most players. I don't think they finish it as well as Kane does from that spot. He shows you what it's all about. One hit, bam, side netting, the body's in the way, he still makes it work.
There are very few good attacks that lead to a goal. There's very few passing sequences that lead to a goal. Like you say, it's all to do with those three chances, and it's kind of working for them almost because they're still picking up points and they're still in with a shout of the top four. But you look at these stats week after week and you think, oh God, surely that's going to stop working at some point and they're going to lose a game.
That's the gamble. But I think it's also the setup that the way we talked about bonus before and how it's obviously geared towards forwards, but also in particular in teams where I think Mark said last week, didn't he, that where other players don't particularly steal it for whatever reason. And Kane just scores a goal. He's getting bonus pretty much all the time and invariably finds a way to score because he's a sort of 20 to 30 goal a season striker, season in, season out. So Spurs' numbers actually across the season for expected aren't awful. They're not as bad as what you would think. But yeah, the fixture's now turned, so I think it's just an obvious sell after Bournemouth, isn't it, to start moving towards Salah and Man City assets. And
Nunez. What can go wrong? What can go wrong with that?
Surprised he didn't play, actually, Nunez.
Yeah. It was a kind of chaotic game that he probably would have thrived in. So, yeah, maybe a bit of a surprise he wasn't there. Just wanted to shout out Forest right at the bottom of this, really struggling to create chances. I think they're in big trouble. They're now in the relegation spot, and it's going to be hard for them to pull themselves out unless other teams start doing worse. But it's a big win for Bournemouth against Leeds. That's really, really pushed them in it.
Do you know they've scored 5 goals away from home all season?
Wow.
So if you're at home to Forest, you've got to be pretty unlucky not to pick up a clean sheet, it seems.
Yeah. They're playing United this week, but United's, away. So United are better at home, just like Forest are, but Forest have got the home game. Be interesting to see how that goes. Spoiler again, it's the Garden Centre game. I think it's going to be a pretty dull one.
Should we mention Leicester? Because they had the good games and you had Maddison in your team and they have been god-awful as well.
Oh, God, yeah. I saw that stat you posted just before the week, which was they've created the lowest XG at home.
Yeah, they're the lowest in the whole league for XG at home, which you just would not expect, I think, for a team like Leicester. And even watching them, you probably wouldn't expect it because they seem like they have got some good players and some exciting players, haven't they? But that's pretty embarrassing, I think.
The whole team is just an odd team. I mean, Vardy starting again now. I mean, we talk about kind of older players. It was like the door was open for the likes of Iheanacho or Daka to kind of stake that claim, and they just haven't. So they've got 3 strikers there who you wouldn't really trust. Barnes has been doing all right. Maddison's obviously the central point, but he's been off the boil in the last kind of 6-7 matches. Then who else is there in that side? I mean, Tielemans isn't around. Dewsbury Hall is picking up stupid bookings and red cards. The defence looks terrible. Castagna and Pereira aren't getting involved in the games. I just
this is two-footed.
They're just going down. They're just. I can't see.
You think? Okay.
I can't see anything good about them.
Well, Maddison's the good thing about him, but did you see his interview the other day where it looked like he was completely broken after he made the mistake?
Yeah.
I almost feel sorry for him, but
I mean, when your talismanic player's doing that and he's suffering as a result of it psychologically, it's like, no, don't worry. You can make as many mistakes as you want. You're the only reason we're with a shout of not getting relegated this season.
9 XG from open play at home all season for Leicester. Expected to score 9 goals. They've ended up scoring 17. I think that speaks volumes to the likes of Maddison. That because out of all the players, we know he's a player that can defy it with just absolute weldy goals. It's kind of his trademark. But it can't go on forever. I don't particularly like Maddison as an FPL pick, but I think you can't. I mean, in real life, he's obviously a fantastically talented player, but with those fixtures and those games, and the fact he's on set pieces, you just, however you dress it up, it's incredibly unlucky, even if they have been poor, not to get anything out of him, I think.
I mean, I took Saka out for Maddison for a hit going into Gameweek 29, given that he had an extra fixture and better games, and they both come out with identical points when you take in the kit into account as well. It's an absolute joke. Really, really poor. And with City away, I think people are going to be selling Maddison for a hit, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, we know what's going to happen. This is the game he scores the worldie because people are looking at Man City options. Leicester have been dreadful, and this is the one he scores the 35-yard free kick probably.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate the idea of keeping him. If people are, he has got something to play for. He will be off in the summer, no matter what happens to Leicester. I imagine Newcastle are going to come in hard for him again. And after City, it is a decent run on paper again. It's Wolves, it's Leeds, it's Everton, it's Fulham. It's 4 good games for them. So it's not an automatic sell, but if you've got other issues in your team, but if you've got one transfer and you're looking to, when you've got Grealish there around the same price or even cheaper, $1 million cheaper.
I suppose the punt is the fact that, although we just slagged him off as the new manager, is that he changes something or finds a new setup that works better for him. So I think in recent games, at least, Maddison's not been playing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he's been playing in the front three. He's been playing more as a 10, and I don't think that necessarily suited the setup. I mean, they change it all the time.
Yeah, he had his best spell out on the wing, didn't he? But then they kind of moved him a bit more central again.
I mean, well, the one thing Dean Smith has done pretty well was the season where he didn't make Grealish. He was fantastic for a long time for him, and he's been fantastic since. But he did well with Grealish, didn't he, in that season, and used him well. Now, Maddison's a different kind of player, but do you think... I mean, he geared the team towards Grealish, is what I'm getting at. Would he do the same with Maddison? Maybe, but you haven't got a lot of time to work with it, have you?
I think he has to. I think there's no other way of. Like I said, I don't think there's any other players in that squad that can step up. I think it's Barnes and Maddison. They're going to be the key to hopefully keeping them in the league. But I'm just not sure Dean Smith has got it in him to get the most out of them. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I've got some friends who are Leicester fans, and they're not optimistic. Let's put it that way.
Fans never are optimistic.
Fans never optimistic, no. But even, I think pessimistic doesn't even quite cut it. I think they've already resigned themselves to going down. Let's look at defence. It's City right at the top of this, like they so often are. An XG conceded non-penalty penalty of 0.61. Still conceding goals. Still conceded against Southampton. Actually, they had a couple of chances in that game, Southampton. I can't remember his name. The winger they've got, or the striker. Really quick. Yeah, really fast. He had a good chance, but the touch kind of took it away from him. But look at that chance conceded per 90, 5.83. I mean, next best is Newcastle at 8, and Liverpool, surprisingly, at 9. But, that is a really, really low chance per 90. I mean, you talked about Mahrez and Grealish and thoughts on who's going to start there. Defence, pretty settled now?
It is pretty settled, yeah. Because he's playing this 3 at the back system, in possession at least, with Stones as the inverted role. I think, and we can see from when Diaz came back from injury, playing in the centre of those 3, he hasn't missed a game. It's coincided with the team massively improving, actually shipping the goals. And you can even see it. I mean, not against Bayern, you're always going to give chances away, but he is that last chance saloon guy, I suppose, alongside Ake, that just makes crucial interceptions at the right times, and it's the organisation that he brings. So I think you could say there is an argument, like, let's say they get to the semi-finals. For me, Man City will play probably this back 3 of Ake, Diaz and Akanji that has worked so well. I'm going to ignore Stones for a minute. Just those 3 in most of the games, if not all of the games. I think the issue will be around the semi-final if they make it, Champions League. I think they've got Leeds and Everton. Now, I just mentioned about the away travel, so I'm not sure which way it falls yet, whether it's even been decided already in terms of the fixture and which leg would be home and away. Presumably not. It could be the game that happens after the away travel is the most likely one to give them a breather. And if that was the first tie, that would make sense, because you go first one away, rest them in the Premier League game, whatever it is, then be ready for the next game, if that makes sense, the next tie of the Champions League. I think they could therefore miss maybe one, but I don't think it's any different between them. I think out of all 3 of those, Akanji, Ake and Diaz, it might be that they just play a B team in that game. Or how many games have Man City got left? Is it 9, I think, in total? or maybe I've made that wrong.
they've got the double, haven't they? They've got one double left, so they haven't got two.
Okay, so if they've got 9 fixtures or whatever it is, I think you can sort of in your mind put them down for 8.5. I'd be fairly confident on the defence that he's going to continue to play the way it is. There might come a time where he has to, simply because of the sheer volume of games, give one of them a rest. But I think they will play them. Like I say, 8.5 out of the 9.
You're saying all the right things, Luke. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, it's brave to say it, right? Because last time we were at a double Man City, they started messing around. But I think the difference here is the fact that he hadn't found his setup. He hadn't found the way he wanted to play and the players to play in the system. Ake's only real threat is Laporte to that left centre-back role in this setup. He's pretty much the only one who could play there. I think you could force a Kanji there if you really wanted to, but it's not really ideal.
I mean, the way Ake's playing at the moment, he's like a man possessed.
Well, the feeling would be that you'd bring Laporte in for one game to give him a break, and it's not. I mean, Ake's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like Laporte's a bad player, is it?
No.
He could easily do a job in one of those games, but he wants to leave apparently, and he's pretty much been frozen out. Pep did say before that he would play Laporte in the games where he favoured build-up, as in we'll have no defending to do. I want to dominate the ball, pass forward, and I'll play Ake in the more defensive games. And he did keep true to that. But since then, I think Ake's build-up, first of all, is underrated. I think he's been really good in that area. I don't think he's massively below Laporte, although Laporte is better. And Ake's been that good that I don't think he's needed to make the change. So I think you could go as far as to say Ake might end up playing all the games. And as a result, although I do think Diaz is probably the most secure, I don't think Ake is enough less secure to say I'm not going to buy him, because the difference in price is like £1 million or something.
Yeah.
And I'd say Ake's probably got slightly more goal threat. I mean, they're both a threat from set pieces. They're both pretty good. Ake's fantastic in the air, Diaz as well. But even from open play, Ake can at least offer something. I know it's not really a left back role, but in some games he will be able to move a little bit further up the pitch. So I really like Ake. I think if I was going to pick one, I would pick Ake. I think Diaz is fine. I think Akanji could be okay. I think a lot of people love Stones because he's playing in that inverted role in midfield. And I get that. I think he's the best defender out of all of them all round. I think he's probably one of the best defenders in the world, if not the best at the moment. But for me, his injury record is a little bit of a concern. I think even in the Bayern game, did you watch the game where he chased back and then he sort of
he was wincing a bit, wasn't he? Yeah.
And then he took a few moments, sat down. Now that might just be tactical to calm the game down, but my heart always sinks with Stones. Has he done it again? Has he pulled something? So it's not only that, it's that little bias in me that I have probably, but it's also the fact the inverted role in midfield, we've seen that Lewis can play that role, Bernardo Silva can play that role, Walker not really, but he can play like a variation of that role. Whereas all the other players have probably only got one other player that can potentially play their role.
I think Pep said that Walker can't play that role. And
it's like a variation. It's not the same. He kind of has wide and then he sits in. They do both of them go into midfield, invert into midfield on both sides when he does it. But the point is there's more competition for that spot compared to the other ones. And as a result, with his injury record, I just would put him slightly below, although I do think he's the best player. Does that make sense?
Yep, good. No, you're saying that my City players are the right ones to get, so I'm happy with how this is going. Let's look at Villa next. Villa are 5th on the list. I mean, they have just been absolutely incredible under Emery. I mean, another win against Forest. I mean, we kind of expected them to win that game, but it was just another confident, classy performance. Watkins scoring again, another clean sheet for them. Defence looks really, really settled. Martinez is playing well. They've got Moreno, who's come in. Mings is cheap and playing well. We've got options there too. I mean, obviously the fixtures turn a little bit now, but the Villa defence looks good. And I've got a Villa defender on my wildcard.
Okay.
Just the one.
Cool.
But
which one have you got?
I've gone for Moreno.
Yeah, he's the one.
He looks fun.
He is the fun one. Are you not worried about Digne at all then?
I don't think so. Not the way he's playing and the way Villa are playing at the moment. I think Dean is. He's the kind of player you could bring in and he could just score an own goal.
I know all too
we
well.
We both know. We both know about that.
I hate that guy. I don't know why I bought him up.
There's always a bit of risk, isn't there? But I've got a couple of boring players in there. I want to go for someone a bit more fun. So
no, I get that. I think the Mings it's really weird. It's like I did the same. I went for Digne because I thought he had more attacking threat, and I guess in the stats he does, but it's not enough. And Mings just always seems to. He is a threat on set piece. He always finds a way to pick up an assist or a goal or anything. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting more attacking returns than Moreno, and he's obviously more solid. Although I think Villa fans were talking about is it Douglas? I can't remember his name now. The Brazilian, is it the Brazilian centre back they signed? Someone will have to remind me in the chat what his name is. But he's missed
Carlos?
the whole season. Diego Carlos, thank you. So he's missed most of the season, hasn't he? And he's now sort of back. And I think the fans were saying he might come in for one of the centre backs, probably more likely Consa, but I don't really think it's happened. Anyway, if you go Moreno, I guess you avoid that. So
he started the first two, Carlos, and then obviously has been injured and out. I just don't think he's going to be wanting to change things up too much, given how things are going. Be a brave move to suddenly bring in a new centre back or change your left back or something. Arsenal in 9th, they have slipped a bit. Obviously, Saliba's been out, and Holding's come in and kind of done a job. I saw an interesting thread. Forgive me, I can't remember who posted it, but it was a thread on why Saka's output might have been reduced a bit with Saliba out, because the passing lines Holding does are completely different to the ones that Saliba does, and they don't seem to target that side of the pitch as much. So Saka's seeing less of the ball. I always find those kind of tactical things interesting when you look at there's a passing map of the passing, with Saliba and without him as well. I mean, when you see Saka through on goal though, and then the pass doesn't even get to him, you can't exactly blame him for that. But I think Arsenal need to get their best defender. Gabriel's had a great season, but arguably their best defender back for this run-in, because that's points dropped against Liverpool now. They cannot drop any more points because City are just going to relentlessly cruise through these games. I think.
I'd also add though that the presumably this takes into account the Liverpool game as well, doesn't it? Because it's the last 6, and that we know that Liverpool, I think they generated 4 XG or something in that match alone, so that probably has a big impact on that as well. Arsenal's defence I think is still pretty good. The fixtures are still middling though, aren't they? That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 1 clean sheet in the last 5 games. That's against Fulham.
Clean sheets have just been hard all season, don't you think, to predict from teams?
Yeah.
I mean, Man City are the poster child for it because their stats are ridiculous and they just struggle to pick them up. They've kind of set the trend across the season.
There's no team you trust apart from Newcastle, really. Newcastle are the one where you see them with the home game, you kind of automatically think they're going to keep a clean sheet in that, and they often do. But everyone else...
Yeah, it's been pretty woeful for defenders. Maybe. I think you talk about it every week, don't you? Want to hear how it's been pretty woeful defenders outside Trippier. So probably shouldn't bang on about it.
We'll come to that section in a minute. It's always a fun part of this. United down in 17th. Obviously, that is taking into account the Liverpool hammering that they gave. You'd expect to see this start to improve now, given that Casemiro's coming back into the side as well. Investment in United is high. I've gone for 2 United defenders in my wildcard, for example. So I want to see these numbers improving. It's back-to-back clean sheets for them now against Brentford, and
as soon as Casemiro's out of the team as well, which is what everyone said would have effect on them.
Did they just beat 2-0? They just beat Everton.
They beat Everton 2-0, and then it was
Brentford before.
Yeah, Brentford at home 1-0.
Yeah. So obviously we want to see this improving, and Casemiro back isn't exactly going to harm that. But we talked about United. There's going to be some adaptation needed with Rashford out. And bottom of this list is Leeds. So going by the last 6 matches, and the fact that Leeds have just conceded 5 goals to Crystal Palace. What on earth happened in that game? I mean, they couldn't score under Vieira, and Hodgson's come in.
How much is that? Is that manager bounce? Is that what we're talking about? Is that Roy Hodgson? Has he literally got them rocking? Like, some things are just beyond explanation sometimes, aren't they? I mean, they look like fantastic. Obviously, the games are a lot better as well. I think the appointment of Roy Hodgson coinciding with Palace's like greatest run of fixtures ever from now to the end of the season is kind of fortunate for him, but I don't want to take it away from him. It almost looks like he's just brought in all the cool kids again, like Eze, Elise, everyone's just playing, with freedom, and it's working for the moment. How long it lasts, I don't know. I mean, we've had Roy Hodgson before, and it wasn't always like this. It wasn't rock star football from Palace, so I don't know. But the fixtures are good enough, right? To I think when we were talking about midfield options in particular, I guess, and just I suppose options from now to the end of the season, especially if you're on wildcard, it's very hard to find where you're going to pick up differences from the norm and for the obvious options. Like, you don't have to go hunting them by all means, but if you want to go hunting for them, Palace's fixtures alone say that you should probably look at them. And now you add the fact that they seemingly are performing pretty well. I think that you could maybe look at some of their players. I mean, Elise and Eze are at least interesting.
Mm.
The issue I come back to is they're like the same price as Brighton midfielders, and in a straight fight, you're just picking the Brighton midfielders all day, aren't you?
I like him in the free hit. That's what I mean. I like him in the free hit against Everton at home. I think, you go for an Elise and Eze, and that can be quite fun. Would I be buying one for my actual team? Given, like you say, you've got the mid-price Brighton assets and Grealish and Arsenal mids, Salah, people are going to be willing to move into. I don't know. It just seems a bit. They're not going to play Leeds every week.
No,
I think is the message there. I mean, that is a hell of a capitulation, though, isn't it? To concede 5 at home to Crystal Palace. I think Hodgson does get painted with a bit of an unfair brush, being a negative manager. I don't think he is really. He never really has been. I think
it's because when he went to Liverpool, right?
Yeah.
I think it's when you go to the bigger teams and then you're not. I suppose it's like David Moyes, and it's like you don't go all out attack, guns blazing.
Yeah.
It kind of hinders you. You get labelled it a little bit. I think, he's not an outgoing attacking manager, but he's not super defensive.
No.
There's far worse than him.
Absolutely. Yep. Cool. Right. Let's look at some players. We'll do a quick covering of goalkeepers. I mentioned Martinez, 7 points per 90 for him over the last 6. 7 starts for him. Really, really high points per 90. Goalkeepers. Who would you pick? You're on a wild card, like I am. I reckon I think it's a choice of 2, really. I think it's between De Gea and Ederson. You could maybe put Steele in there as well. But I quite like the Brighton sort of defenders as well. And with Sanchez kind of knocking around. I think it's between De Gea and Ederson. You've been burnt by Ederson this season.
I certainly have.
Would you go back there?
I think it's definitely between David De Gea and Ederson. I wouldn't. Steele's fine, but Stupiman's there, isn't he? So I think I'd use him. But it's hard to tear those two apart. I would go with Ederson again just because it's extremely secure. But I'll
love Payne.
And I love Payne. Absolutely, I love Payne. You can. We're talking about there, like sort of 9 games left. They might get 8.5. Ederson gets 9. That's the difference, isn't it? I will add though that when we bought Ederson after World Cup, or people that joined me on that fantastic train, he was clearly the outstanding option from their back line, simply because he was definitely going to play all the games, and the other guys were far more flexible or all up in the air as who's going to play. That's kind of changed now. I think the Man City defence is a lot more settled. So you could now argue the case that no, you can go for one of the defenders, and Ake and Diaz have a little bit more threat, and they might get as close to him in games. And therefore, with Shaw out, David De Gea just suddenly becomes a better option as a result. But I'd want one of those two, and I think you can make a case for either one.
Yeah, I mean, De Gea's got the extra game.
I think it's just that security blanket, I guess, for those people who absolutely want to guarantee it, which you can understand. And I know he's conceded from like one shot every single game, but it literally cannot go on forever. I mean, I could just turn around and point, look at Ederson in any other season under Pep Guardiola, and the fact that Man City gets 20 to 22 clean sheets nearly every season. And Ederson's been in goal for all of those, and it's never been a problem in the past. So there's nothing to say that it's just this voodoo is going to continue. I know he has been particularly poor at one-on-one saves, but it doesn't mean that it's just going to carry on forever. And if you're literally facing like one shot a game, the chances are more likely that you are going to keep a clean sheet. So eventually, variance is going to be kind. There you go. I had to say the word.
Yep. Nice. Had to get it in there. Yeah, I think what sways it to De Gea for me is that I like the De Gea and Ake sort of double. Whereas if you go for Ederson, then you're probably pairing that with Martinez. And I think that's just less.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
A bit less in that. But
he's not 100% nailed, is he, Martinez? I know he was back from injury, but I suppose they've at least got a few options. I suppose Shaw being out.
Well, Maguire was praised, wasn't he, after the last game? Said it was the best performance Ten Hag had seen from him. So could come in. I mean, Martinez is my team. I don't know why I'm slagging him off. I'm sure he's going to be great. score loads of goals down the end of the season. Defence. Let's get through this quickly. It depresses me every week. We are starting to see at least a couple of players climbing up the XGI non-penalty per 90. Chilwell over the last 6, just behind Wan-Bissaka. Only 2 starts for him though. But Chilwell is now second on the list. He just should have had more than he's got. His chance of creating per 90 is high, 2.54. His shots per 90 is decent, 1.69. Points per 90 is, okay at 4.92, but a lot of that is heavy lifting was done in his big hauls before everyone bought him. I've got rid of him.
Wow. Okay. Just unsecure minutes. Lampard, is that what's done it?
I just don't want any Chelsea players. I mean,
but you hate Chelsea for some reason.
I do, but that wasn't it, because Kepa's actually been really good for me, and I do think Chilwell has good potential. But
you didn't even want Kepa.
No, I know.
You didn't go for him, did you? And then you had to eventually back down.
I did.
Just wanted to remind you.
Thanks, mate. I did the full-on U-turn on that one. I might end up doing the same with Chilwell, but they lost to Wolves. You know, they've got Lampard as manager. They've got all these new players who don't know to play with. Chilwell was benched in the last game. They've got Real Madrid coming. There's just too much. Like, they haven't scored any goals. You know, you can have all the good attacking. They can have all the good attacking, stats they want. They can't score any bloody goals.
I'd say the only really valid thing out of that, though, really is the concern that maybe he might not play as much. I think all the other stuff you could take that and label it as Spurs right now, and Kane still gets points. Like, Chilwell will find a way. Like,
I'd like to caveat that
as an FPL option.
Yeah, I'd like to caveat. I don't think Chilwell is a bad option, but to get the team I want, I can't have, because I'm going for three. I'm going for Salah, Kane, and Haaland. To do that, I've got to go cheap in defence. I've just got to. A few weeks ago, I wouldn't have done it because I would have thought Chilwell was so high and so explosive. But I'm hoping that you see a bit of a chink in the armour, and maybe he's not as amazing an option as we thought. But the stats are encouraging. The fixtures aren't great. I don't know.
It's always what you can do with extra money. No, it's always what you can do with the extra money. So yeah, if you're going down that route and that's where you're finding the money from, that's fair enough. I will say that I think it's after, I can't remember which game week it is now, but doesn't he play Bournemouth and maybe Forest, and then he goes into one of the worst doubles of all time, potentially, in 37?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think there is an avenue to sell him, but I think keeping him for...
35 and 36 is Bournemouth and Forest, and then 37 is City and United, both away.
Yeah, so I think keeping him and then even getting rid of him in that double, simply because I don't know if you've looked at your team at that point, but you probably have doublers everywhere in your team. Literally everyone will have a double. So you could potentially have a transfer just to move Chilwell out to a Man City defender or whoever at that point. Those games would scare me if he plays them, the Bournemouth and Forest games.
They're kind of far enough away. Because I mean, if I'm going to be moving for a Liverpool defender, for example, for their double in 34, that's an easy downgrade then to Chilwell for 35 and 36.
Okay.
So there is a kind of an exit strategy when I inevitably U-turn on this decision as well.
But it could be a masterstroke if he gets benched again. He's playing Madrid tonight, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, I mean, it's Brighton at home next. I think we score in that. It's Brentford at home after that. I think Brentford score in that. And then it's Arsenal in 34 with a double. So next three, I think he's doable without. Like you say, 35 and 36 would be a concern. But then it's City, United, Newcastle. Again, it's not the best end of the season. And they're petering out anyway. Reece James, Mark's got him as well. He's now 5th on the list. He's gone the opposite way to me. I've taken out all my Chelsea defenders. He's got 3.
He's got to be a bit different, hasn't he? Bless him. I think James was very good the other day. I mean, they still ended up losing 1-0 and he didn't get any points, but that's classic James. He looked really good.
Yep. That's all you want, really. Just look good. Just look good. Any points?
Yeah, he's won the looking good contest.
Absolutely.
At least.
Yep.
I think Porro's another one I think that's on this list where maybe not for this season, but for next season he'll be interesting depending on how they price him.
Yep.
I suppose it might matter who their manager is and if he's still going to be a wing back and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a struggle in this area, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think you want to get someone who can get you huge hauls, and it's good to see that the players near the top in these last 6 weeks are kind of some of the players that you would put down as
Robertson
being responsible.
in 6th, yeah, Trent in 7th. You know, at least they are the attacking fullbacks up there that we haven't really seen. I mean, my new best mate Moreno is in 14th, 0.22, which actually isn't too bad. But then, looking at Estupiñán, for example, who a lot of people are... Oh, sorry, Estupiñán. I don't know why I said it so wrong. I've been perfecting that. Down in 0.15. So that's really low for a fullback in the kind of an attacking Brighton system. And then if you are interested in the City defence, well, Ake's in 46th, 0.10. And then John Stones, 0.02. So they've got goals. They've got goals in them. We've seen them score goals before. And, when you've got players like De Bruyne and Grealish from corners and feeding the balls in, there's always a chance that they could get something off the back of nothing. But don't be too expectant, I think is the message.
Yeah, I think on those ones, it's like we know the numbers are low, but it's like you say, if they're going to dominate most of the games, get a lot of set pieces, the XG is only going to appear there if they actually manage to make contact with the ball. So a lot of the time, the ball will come in, they don't make contact, you don't see anything, but they're there, and it could happen. The one time it hits the head, it could go in. So
I think with centre backs, it's that these XG numbers.
You have to get lucky to get a goal from a centre back. You get like 4 or 5 a season max, for most of the time from one of you has a fantastic season. So to get it in the week that you need it is.
I mean, Dunk was a good example against Spurs. I mean, we haven't looked like we're kind of aiming the ball to him from set pieces, but we know that he's good in the air and that he's got goals in him, and then he eventually does get one. But I'd hope for a few more from him this season.
What about Trent? Because he looked pretty damn good in that game versus Arsenal. And
he's playing in this new kind of inverted fullback role, isn't he? Because he's dropping sort of into midfield and getting forward again, which is quite exciting. I mean, defensively, he's almost... I think he is becoming a liability now. I mean, there's so much talk about him at the start of the season and, Klopp deflecting it and, feeling like everyone's piling on him a bit. But, I mean, look at the games recently. I mean, Martinelli down that side absolutely destroyed him. Grealish down that side absolutely destroyed him. It's like when teams are playing Liverpool, you look at their left wingers and think, I might get something out of this.
Yeah, I can't really argue with that. Positionally, he's been poor, but I suppose we don't. I mean, it obviously affects our clean sheets.
Exactly. It doesn't matter, does it? If he's playing in a more attacking role,
he's also just really good with bonus. Still, he's still done really well on bonus this season. He's done pretty well overall. I think he's one of the highest scoring bonus point defenders.
18.62 is the highest baseline bonus per 90 of all defenders over the last 6.
The temptation's there because he's another one of those players where you probably want to be a little bit different. I think he probably won't be that different amongst the engaged managers come 34. They'll probably look to get him then, but somehow fitting him in early or maybe just getting him in 34 is definitely an avenue because he looks like... I mean, he always looks like he's primed to suddenly get points. But yeah, if he's suddenly getting pushed into midfield where he's kind of really good in that inside right channel and he's able to pick those ridiculous passes. We saw it in the last game that he picked a number of them out. So I wouldn't be surprised if some hauls start coming his way. It's just you really want to pair that with the clean sheets. And I know they picked them up recently, but it felt quite lucky that they did so.
Yeah.
Is all. But the fixtures are there. Right? So
I like him.
I think he's worth a go.
Yeah, I like him. And again, I mean, I'm moving my money out of defence, but maybe it is the time to start looking to play a bit more. I think I'm going to want Trent for that double. For the double in 34.
He was benched last double, wasn't he? I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Because people were really hopeful.
Milner played.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And Gomez is there. So although I'm still probably going to do it, the fear is going to be there again. I mean, they're not in any other competitions though. But Klopp just seems to go on just do that. I mean, he got slagged off, I think, for doing that in that week. It didn't seem like it made a whole lot of sense to play that team, but he went ahead and did it.
I think that was Klopp just kind of being a bit like no one's safe because he rested everyone, didn't he? It wasn't just Trent. He was against Chelsea, the second game of the double. It was such a poor performance against City that he was just like, right, you're all out. You all pissed me off. You
think that's what it was?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, why else would you bring Milner in and Oxlade-Chamberlain? And you got to be. There's got to be some method to it. It's the fact it was so many at once. If it had been like kind of 3 or 4 players. But
he has got this flag system though, hasn't he? And I suppose the games were close. I suppose you could point at either. I really hope it's what you say because I want to bring him in for that game. I suppose if you want to, again, similar to the City defenders, if you want to absolutely guarantee it, you pretty much have to go Van Dijk because Robertson can drop one for Tsimikas, can't he?
I think it'd be a shame if Klopp was like, right, we're going to experiment with this new system and this new role, and Trent's going to drop into midfield, and then he has like 1 or 2 bad games doing it, and then he's like, right, okay, we're not doing that anymore. He's going to get dropped for Milner. Yeah. Seems pretty harsh. I think he's pretty safe.
Just my anxiety, I guess.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you. I think the risk outweighs the reward. No, other way around. Reward outweighs the risk.
Yeah, I'm still going to go for Trent, but I suppose it's just a consideration, isn't it, that he could get dropped. Well, say I'm going to go for him. It depends, if I'm in the position to at that point, but that's certainly the plan.
Yep. Midfield. Got some interesting ones here. De Bruyne wasn't too happy with being subbed last night. He remains at the top of the XGI non-penalty per 90, where he's been for the vast majority of the season for midfield without getting huge returns. He is getting 9.14 points per 90 over over those games, so he has started to click. But he's had a bit of a funny season, isn't he? Kind of in and out of the team a little bit. Maybe not the. I mean, when he does influence the game, he's still got all the skills of old. But maybe this is a kind of a sign of things to come over the next few years, which is such a shame because he's been such an incredible player in the league. But played well against Bayern, played well against Southampton.
I mean, if De Bruyne's he's a fantastic player, but he just costs too much in FPL.
Yeah,
that's the issue. I mean, if you have no issues
10.
with money,
he should have been 10.
Yeah, he should have been a lot cheaper. I mean, I suppose it's easy to say, I guess, right? Because the matchmake of De Bruyne and Haaland, which has been shown, the connection between them and the amount of assists, was potentially heaven right there, and it has been. But it's the fact that it's pretty much only been assists, and then he's ended up missing some games as well. That's the problem. So it's hard for FPL to sort of, I don't know, foresee that, I guess. And they have had a bit of a formation change. So I'm not going to be too harsh for the price, but it's still just at this moment in time just seems a lot of money when you've got Grealish for, was it 4 million less or something?
More than that. Grealish is 7, so it's 5.
Is he 7? So 5 million less. It's hard to see the difference there. But if you want to be different for 7-8 weeks and you've got the money, De Bruyne could outscore Grealish easily. He could, couldn't he? It's not like Grealish is, an elite FPL performer in the past. He's done very well on returns recently, but it's kind of a new thing for him.
I forgot how good Foden had been before his injury as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic first 7-8 game weeks of the season or whatever it is when he started playing hat tricks, playing as a second striker role.
Well, like even over the last 6 game weeks, he's had 3 starts and he was getting 9 points a game.
Yeah, so as soon as he came back from his latest injury and he cemented that right wing spot, it was looking like he was going to be the great option. Then he had this issue. Was it pancreas that's gone or whatever? Yeah, he's one for later down the line, I guess, if he's back, but he would be tempting because out of all of the midfielders, he's the one that feels like he can score the most goals. And that's ultimately what we want most of the time in FPL, isn't it? So
we've always been big Foden fanboys, haven't we?
Oh, I love Foden, yeah.
He's always coming in and out of our teams. We've talked about Martinelli, we talked about Grealish. Matoma is now at the top of the Brighton mids for extra non-penalty per 90. I mean, how he came away from that game against Spurs with nothing is impressive. But, this is now a reversal because we've seen him kind of not being the stats darling, and March and McAllister have been. The underlying stats for him, particularly over the last 6, are really good. And like I've been saying for a few weeks now, he's still the number 1 option for me in the side. March isn't too far behind him, but in terms of stats are slightly better. And McAllister's, again, stats are still good, but has that risk of playing in that kind of deep line role a little bit. Although he should have had a penalty. That's why you buy him. So,
yeah. All 3 of them are great, aren't they? There's nothing more to add. We all know they're good. Probably everyone's got them already and they've made their bed. I don't think there's any point switching between them now. You just ride it out, don't you?
You pick your 2 mids and your defender and just roll with that.
Yeah, all 3 mids. I think some people have done that and it's worked really well, to be fair.
Well, it was interesting on the wildcard because they were kind of like, I'll show you which ones I've gone for in a minute. There has been some change from what I had. But it was a difficult kind of choice because you want to get the perfect ones, but changes seems to fluctuate kind of each week. Saka down in 30th. XG non-penalty per 90 of 0.38. Below the likes of Mudryk, Benrahma, Harrison, Buendia.
Yeah, but they've played, 100 minutes compared to his 500 and probably for the last 20 in Chelsea when they're desperate for a goal. So I don't read anything into that. Saka's fine. Fantastic. Not a problem at all. I just think that right now, for the path that we're on, it doesn't make sense to have him if you're going to free hit in 32 and then you get him back. But if you've chosen to keep him, no issue whatsoever. I don't think there's going to be a problem there at all.
Yep, no, I agree with that. I tried to find a way to go from over Martinelli in my team, but couldn't due to price. He's still the one for me, Saka. I think if you've got him and he's becoming more of a differential, I think he's got another big hole in him, I reckon, between now and the end of the season, which you'll benefit from.
Yeah, it's just we say it all the time, but just having penalties as that added security as well is just can be very important.
Apart from this week,
this week Luke. It wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
Rub it in.
That is the rarity, unless I own Salah, apparently.
Yeah, 2 penalty misses in 1 week. I don't think it's ever happened to me in FPL before.
I've got I can only remember 3, and the other one was the time, I think it was last season, when he was home to Leicester, and Leicester were terrible again, and I captained him and he missed a penalty in that one.
Oh, God. Yeah, well, I had Salah this season when he missed against in the first.
Same.
Yeah, so two missed penalties from Salah and Tony this season. So that's 3.
Do you reckon he's off penalties? Because that's a talk in the community I've seen.
Very good question. Klopp said he's going to have a chat with him.
Well, I can imagine how that chat goes.
The chat's
going to
go.
Take penalties anymore because you kind of missed them, and Salah goes, "Yes, I do."
Of course, I still want to take them because I want to add to my goal tally. Yeah, I don't think so. I think he. Sorry, I don't think so. I don't think he loses them. I think he stays on them because who else really is there that can take him? I think Nunes has got quite a good record, hasn't he? But
he's got a decent record. I think Fabinho's got an excellent record, but you can't even guarantee he'll be on the pitch.
No.
I don't know. Salah strikes me as kind of that Kane type from interviews and everything. He always is interested in the records and going for goals, and rightly so. He's had fantastic seasons. He's world star. There's certain players in this world, I guess, that can carry that reputation and almost demand them from the manager, and he kind of has to listen. So we might want to have a chat, but and ultimately, I guess Klopp does have the say. But if Salah says he wants to keep the penalties.
Maybe it's in his own bumper contracts that he's just signed.
I don't know if do they put that in contract. I hear people say that.
Only for Mbappe, I think. I think he just. Right. I think he pretty much wrote his own contract. Everyone else, I think, probably has to. Yeah, kind of not worry about.
They almost owe it to Salah, I would say, to give him. He's been so good for them, so fantastic. Yeah. He says he wants to keep.
I guess the only issue is that they're not saves. One blazed over the bar. One just shanked wide. They were very, very poor pens.
Anyone can miss a penalty, even Tony, apparently.
Yeah.
So.
We both think he keeps them then.
I think he keeps them. Milner, I would say maybe if he's on the pitch, has always been, Milner has occasionally, I think in the past, taken a penalty over Salah, like rarely, but I think it has happened. So maybe, but if Milner's on the pitch, you're probably in trouble anyway. So
give him to Trent, boost his appeal.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I really hope Salah keeps him anyway, because we've both got him, so maybe that's playing into our decision.
Well, do we? There's another one. Gets even less points. They're horrible. The swing. I can't help but focus on the swing of points.
I know.
Salah scores that. That's an extra 5. He gets a couple of bonus, and then he gets -2. So you're looking at like 9 points lost for a missed penalty.
Yeah. Don't do it.
Okay, sorry. Forwards. We mentioned him at the start. Gabriel Jesus at the top in his 2 starts over the last 6 weeks. 3 goals. XG on put up a 90 of 1.26. That's above Callum Wilson in second with 1.05. Really, really high. Watkins has obviously been incredible. You think about how good Watkins has been, is at 0.72. HL on 90. So, I mean, Wilson and Jesus are really high, but both have only had 2 starts in that. So, Jesus isn't really a risk, as we've said. We think he's now nailed on. But Wilson is still a risk, isn't he, with Isak knocking around?
Yeah.
You've got Isak, haven't you?
I've got Isak, yeah. He was part of my early move to get him, and then he got benched in the double, annoyingly. But yeah, he came on and scored, though, thankfully. So that was good. I think Isak's a great option, but there is no denying that he can obviously, we've got the evidence in front of us. He can be benched for Callum Wilson on any given week. So if you're not the kind of manager who can handle that kind of situation, then fine. I think looking at my particular team, it's like quite a lot of times I have to actually bench Isak anyway, just because I've got so many other doublers and people in my team that will happen. So I really hope he gets benched on those weeks so I can feel less bad about it. I do think he's first choice though, and I think he's a better player than Callum Wilson, but all-round game that is. But Wilson has always had this knack of being able to find the goals. Who do you think's on penalties between the two if they're both on the pitch at the same time? Because Howe has said that he will look to do that. I felt, just on that note as well, I feel like Isak could actually play on the wing. I'm not sure why that's not happened, but I think he wants him closer to goal, right? I think he's maybe feels he's a bit wasted on the wing. I think Wilson takes him if he's on the pitch. You think?
Depends.
He was obviously on them because he's always been on them, and then Isak joined the club. And I think when Isak's taken them, Wilson's not been on the pitch, right? So
he's good. They're both very good at them. So it could be either. I'm just thinking the more kind of experienced head. Wilson's been there a bit longer than he, so might just pull rank on that.
I suppose with the Isak one, it's like, even if he is missing games, it feels like he's going to come on in every game. And if he comes on for 20, 30 minutes, compared to some of the other striker options that we've got, he still doesn't make him worse than a lot of them. I still think he's like fine. Like it's still okay.
I just think he starts the majority of games. I think he's.
Yeah, I hope you're right.
He's too good. He's too good to be benched. You look at that Newcastle team and you think they're starting to add in players who are maybe a level up on some of the players they've had. I mean, Wilson is fantastic, amazing scoring record, but like you say, Isak is a better all-round player. So you've got to get those players in the side, kind of for the majority of games, even if you've got other players that are doing well. Howe is just such a genius. I just didn't see this happening. The way he's got players like Murphy like playing as well, and what he's done with Joe Linton, and he was talking about the depth of the squad, and you look at the squad and the names, and you think they don't really look like they should be as good. But he's right when you can bring on some of these players. Almiron. Look at Almiron before Howe kind of took over.
He's done fantastic.
He has.
I mean, Bruno Guimaraes makes a massive difference to their team.
Yeah, he's the kind of marquee, isn't he? He was like the kind of, I don't know, Yaya Toure, David Silva equivalent when City bought them. He's maybe not in that bracket yet, but he's not far off. He looks like a great player. I mean, Trippier has been fantastic all season. It's easy to forget, I think, just because FPL has been so good and we take it as default. But coming back from Spain and just slotting in Newcastle right back and just performing how he does, they're like week in, week out. He's been so damn good. On that list, by the way, Núñez at 7th. Like, is he an option? Because we just talked about Liverpool. You don't want him. I don't want him. I'll tell you that. The stats have been good all season. I look at the way he plays, the misses he has, and I've seen him in other people's teams who get frustrated week after week. I don't want him, but I'm going to end up with him.
You're going to end up with him?
Oh, yeah.
So he's in the plan, is he? Right, okay.
Well, I think he with those 2 home games,
Well, does he play both the home games?
Well, that's the question. But you feel like he hasn't got many more weeks now to have that 20-pointer that we all know that he's going to get one week. You just got to hope that it's in the double.
Yeah.
I'll roll the dice on him, I think, for the 2 home games.
I really want to. I don't have any doubts as him as an FPL option, given we all know his ability to generate chances, XG, whatever, in any given game. But Firmino scoring as well, coming back in, that's not ideal for him. And Jota's he loves Jota. I think maybe use Jota because his pressing is really, really good in that game. So yeah, and Diaz is still there, isn't he? He's still not started a game. But would you say their front three, the best front three, is Diaz on the left, Salah on the right as a default, or would you put Núñez on the left instead? And then that leaves.
I wouldn't put Núñez in a best 3.
You wouldn't, okay? So what? Diaz, Salah, Jota,
yeah,
or Firmino?
Jota.
Wow, but then you're still going to sign Núñez.
Probably. I'm not Klopp. I think Klopp is desperate to get that Núñez, working in whatever system that he plays.
I want Núñez like you, basically. But
I think Jota and Firmino could be out in the summer. Well, Firmino's gone, isn't he? But Jota as well.
Okay, well, could be, but ultimately, it's like if you want your third Liverpool player, you either go for Robbo or Van Dijk alongside Trent and Salah, really, don't you? Or you go for Núñez, and we just talked about it. It feels like both of those potentially could get benched even in a double. So, do you go for Núñez and scream for the?
He still gets minutes, doesn't he? And with the chance he creates, he's still going to get chances even if he plays for 30 minutes. So, I guess you can't worry about it too much. And like you say, a bit like with Trent, they're an exciting team, I think, to end the season with, Liverpool, because they've got players who could inevitably blank like they've been doing a lot this season, but you feel like with Trent and with Núñez and with Salah that they've got these massive holes in them. And if it all clicks in that double game week and you've got all 3, that could be, at my rank, that could be break me into the top 50k.
Núñez, I know people keep saying it, but Núñez is going to get a bag full of points in one game.
I know.
It's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Imagine in the double, he does it like 2 games in a row. It could be ridiculous.
He I want to see his highlight reel of misses this season. Because it's like every week he seems to be through on goal and just hits it the keeper wide. Absolute chaos.
He is chaos, which is surprising why he wasn't introduced sooner in that game, because the game was chaos, I think, in the second half particularly. But anyway.
Yeah. And don't forget Gakpo as well, who's also an option for...
Yeah, I know. I don't know why I even left him out. He's looked good as well. And that's part of the problem, right? It's just you don't know for sure, I guess. With no other competitions as well, surely he's going to have to offer these players minutes.
Yep.
I don't know.
Fixtures. You didn't have time to do me any predictions. I mean, I did ask you about 40 minutes before we came on, so it's probably not your fault.
While I was driving.
Oh, you were driving
through my computer, yeah.
So I'm afraid I haven't included yours. We'll run through these quite quickly. Villa Newcastle, I've gone for 2-1. Newcastle, this game took me a while to predict. I think this is a really, really interesting game for 12:30 on a Saturday. I'll have a bit of investment in it in Trippier and Watkins, but everyone's got them, so it's not a huge deal. But I'm looking forward to as a football match.
Absolutely, yeah. Two teams in good form. Emre's done a great job. Potentially quite closely matched. So yeah, can't argue with you. Why have you gone for 2-1 then? Just Newcastle just keep churning out the results? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think just they're both very, very good sides, but the way Newcastle are playing at the moment, I think they've just got that. They found that ability to win games again. And I guess I really want them to get top four. Break the mold a little bit. What do you reckon?
Can't argue.
What do you reckon?
No, yeah. I mean, I'll go 2-1 Villa just to be different, but I think I don't think there's any clean sheets in it.
No, me neither. Does that mean you could bench the likes of Trippier then in this one?
I mean, I could if Shaw didn't kill himself as soon as I brought him into my team. I've got Estupiñán away to Chelsea. I think, is it away to Chelsea?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to bring up my team. Yeah. Chilwell home to Brighton. Don't even know if he's going to play. So, I mean, I pretty much have to play Trippier.
Yeah. Brighton-Chelsea, or Chelsea-Brighton is next. I've gone for a 1-0 Brighton. I went for a 1-0 Brighton against Spurs and got egg on my face on that, but still maintain that we shouldn't have lost that game. I'm going to say exactly the same things I said about Spurs. I think we are a better team than Chelsea, and we should win this game off the back of that.
And how did that go?
Terribly, obviously. Like you say, that's just variance.
That's just variance, my friend. Yeah, I think I think I'd back Brighton for the win, just especially with the Real Madrid game.
Yeah.
I want them to win anyway.
Thanks. Everton Fulham. Fulham are just on the downslide at the moment, and I mean Everton conceded so many chances against United, but they're at home, and that's where Dyche will want to pick up points, and I think they nick this one 1-0. I think they'll be all right this season. Everton, good appointment.
Yeah, I know Garden Centre game has to be one that's on TV, but that would be up there if it wasn't, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1-0 sounds about right to me. It seems like it's going to be low scoring. Fulham just can't find the back of the net, and Everton quite similar. No. Is Calvert-Lewin back anytime soon, by the way? Not that I think he's like the ultimate saviour, but I
think every week it's the same update, isn't it? He's close, but not ready, something like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Southampton Palace. I've gone for a 2-1 Palace. The goals to keep flowing, I reckon, for them. I thought Southampton played all right in spells against City, but they are bottom of the league for a reason, and Palace should win that game.
Yeah, Southampton do this. They often look like they can be good in periods and even just random games, and it's particularly against City. It doesn't seem to matter what the personnel is or what the manager is for some reason, but they seem to be able to turn up versus them. I love Southampton. I'm a big fan of them, but I don't like them after they got rid of Hasenhüttl because I liked him. So I'm sorry, Southampton fans. I want Palace to win and cheer for Roy as well.
Go on, Roy.
I think they can do it.
Go on, Roy. Yeah. I mean, that's the only time you hear me cheering on Palace, I think, but the Roy Hodgson appointment is so bizarre that you kind of always want it to succeed. Spurs Bournemouth. This is where the Harry Kanes are going to have to prove themselves. Do you think Kane's a captain option over Haaland this week?
Not for me.
No.
I mean, he is. For obvious reasons.
It's the 90 minutes, isn't it? It's the guaranteed 90 minutes against Bournemouth.
Yeah.
But Bournemouth aren't bad.
No, they've improved dramatically.
I keep thinking they're awful, but they're...
I mean, this is another game where you would probably think that Bournemouth might outplay Spurs for large parts of it, but does it matter? Yeah. No, probably not. I haven't got Kane. I'm absolutely terrified of this game. I mean, most weeks I go into it thinking I don't think Kane's really going to do anything here. I'll probably get away with it, and he still scores. And this one I'm terrified of, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, he's blanking there. It's fine.
Well, I really, really hope so, but
Was it Bournemouth? There's a couple of years ago when Kane had a home game. It might have been Wigan or Bournemouth or one of the real basement dwellers.
He did nothing.
And everyone bought him in. Wild cards are being played from everything. And I think I took a -8 to.
He did have a reputation in the past like that. That has been part of Kane's history, where he would often underperform in games that you'd expect him to perform in. But no longer seems to be the case.
I'd be surprised if he came out of this game without anything, unless Bournemouth nick it 1-0 or something, which is a possibility. Wolves Brentford, big win for Wolves against Chelsea. Brentford still ticking along nicely. I've gone for a 1-0 Brentford in this one. Again, Wolves have clawed their way out of the relegation scrap. It was a good appointment with Lopetegui coming in, but that's not right. But Brentford are a better side, so should win. Just going with that logic.
Yeah, Wolves are similar to what I was talking about the stats before. Wolves at home they scored I think 13 goals all season, which isn't a lot. They just struggle to score, don't they? So Brentford defensively are pretty damn good overall. So yeah, I think Brentford could win that game.
Yep, agreeing with me a lot today, Luke.
Yeah, that's because you've got a good percentage, so I'm just going to go along with it.
It's not as good as Mark's, unfortunately. That's why he's quit. He wants to keep that bloody...
Oh, that is sneaky.
Yeah, so Mark. So Southerns. Jammer's right, it was West Brom. Everyone bought him in for. Any blanks.
Right, okay.
City, Leicester. This could be anything. If City put out a full-strength team in this game could be anything, I reckon. I've gone for a fairly conservative 3-0. But I think this could be 5-6.
Yeah, I will say that Man City have been in this position a lot where you expect them to absolutely hammer Leicester, and it hasn't happened. But
they've never been as bad as this.
Yeah, well, they have been pretty bad as well in the past at times. I do think it's hard to see anything but a very comfortable victory, though. It's hard because they've changed the manager as well, haven't they? So you don't know how much to take on board from it, but ultimately the same players are still there, and it doesn't look like much has changed.
No,
they're just going to set up to try and presumably just not concede 5 or 6 goals and hope to get one on the break. I mean, yeah, I think Man City will win comfortably, and I think they will play very close to their strongest team. I think maybe we've already talked about the Mahrez and Silva thing. Maybe Mahrez comes back in for Silva compared to the Bayern Munich team, and I think you could argue maybe Stones just for the fact that there's a number of other options that can play there, and he might be a bit tired. But other than that, it's hard to see that they won't play their best team. Actually, De Bruyne's another one. I know he says that it wasn't injury related when he brought him off, but did you watch the game? It looked quite bad at the time, and then he seemed to hobble about a bit, and then he went down again, and Pep brought him off, and he said it was just tactical, and then he looked annoyed that he'd been brought off. I don't know if there was an element of protecting him there as well, because he was just worried that he thought he was a little bit injured. And then I think, okay, could he play Alvarez ahead of De Bruyne in this game? Probably. He could do if he wanted to. So he's the other one that I probably wouldn't chance for this, just in case it's more than that.
Yep, agreed. West Ham, Arsenal. I've gone for an Arsenal win. They need to win again. They went for a bit of a blip, didn't they? A bit earlier in the season, and then kind of picked themselves up. They did enough in that game against Liverpool to win it, but didn't. West Ham, funny team, just got battered at home. I think Arsenal win, but I've gone for a slightly nervy 2-1 Arsenal.
No, I can get on board with that. I think Arsenal will win the game. I think West Ham just won, didn't they? Versus, was it Fulham?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fulham are dreadful at the moment. Yeah, I think Arsenal will win comfortably. It'll be presumably the same 11 that played the last game. Maybe Trossard comes in and the team's just too good.
Yep, agreed. Forest United, tricky one, given United are away and Forest are at home. Well, they've both struggled a little bit. Well, not a little bit for Forest. I've just gone for a 2-0 United. I just think even though Forest at home, it's a good time to play them.
What would Mr. Southern say? Would he say they need to win this game or they're down and they're going to go?
That's what he says. That's what he says every week.
I mean, maybe because they seem to be better at home. But yeah, Man United to win surely. Casemiro back.
It's got to be right.
Martial up front. So it's just the loss of Rashford. Does that affect them enough to?
They lost 3-0 at Old Trafford, Gameweek 17. Have they improved markedly since then? Not really. United should see them off quite comfortably. And then finally, Leeds, Liverpool. Liverpool have got an absolutely dreadful away record this season, but Leeds just got thumped by Palace at home. So I've gone for a Liverpool win. A nervy one again, 2-1.
Yeah, do you think it will go... I never know how to read these situations because I basically ignore them and just follow what the stats tell me pretty much now. But people can build a narrative around that and think, well, okay, Leeds just got battered by 5 by Palace. Do they now work on that all during training and they're going to sit back?
Well, it worked for West
defend?
Ham, battered by Newcastle, and then clean sheet against Fulham straight away.
Or are they just so bad that they can't play like that and they're just going to get battered?
Yeah.
Liverpool looked... I mean, the thing you could say is in the second half against Arsenal, Liverpool were very, very good. Like, do they manage to carry it on? But we've been here a few times this season where Liverpool look like they're on the dawn of potentially turning things around, and it doesn't seem to happen. But I think Liverpool would be the bookies' favourite. So, yeah, I'll go with a Liverpool win. And hopefully Salah can make amends for his 5-pointer last week and get us some ridiculous returns.
I think with Leeds, I think it was probably quite similar to that West Ham game against Newcastle. West Ham were in that game until half-time, and then it came out of half-time and just completely capitulated. And that's basically what happened to Leeds. They just forgot how to play football for 45 minutes and just got absolutely annihilated. So I don't think they're going to get battered in this. But I don't think that's because they're going to suddenly tighten up. I think they've not been battered too many times at home this season, and Liverpool are quite poor away. So
I think some of the goals were lucky as well. Jordan Ayew getting a brace and falling into him and stuff It got exaggerated a bit, but
it did.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. Garden Centre game, Forest United. Does anyone care about that? Anything that happens in that? We always want a clean sheet for United if we've got United defenders.
Well, I don't think nearly everyone's got Shaw, and he's probably not going to play, right?
Fernandes, I guess, is someone that people might want to watch. He's in quite a few teams, but he'll be playing at centre back.
I hope not. I think this is a week where we potentially could see some redemption for the likes of Bruno and Salah, like the players that we have bought in and expected to get points, and they haven't. These fixtures still look good enough for them to be able to turn it around. So hopefully we can get lucky there.
I like this week of fixtures. I think it's going to be an interesting week. Hopefully not too many benches for players, some of our key assets, but I think there could be some big returns in quite a few of these games. So looking forward to it. Captains, let's go through these quickly because it's all Haaland's really. Gameweek 31, Gameweek 33, Gameweek 34, Gameweek 35. It's going to be hard to back against Haaland. I mean, it's only 32. Well, we can't because he hasn't got a game. In 33, he's got Arsenal at home. I mean, you could maybe make a case for going for someone else, but like Mark said last week, there isn't really anyone that really stands out. Spurs have got United, for example. Brighton have got Forest. I guess that could be an interesting one.
That'd be the punty one, wouldn't it?
The punty one. Salah's got West Ham away, but I think a home game for Haaland.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Salah could be okay, but you touched on their away record's been dreadful. But maybe when we get there, let's say they batter Leeds and they look good in the second half, maybe people will give that more credence. But it's Haaland's nearly every week. Yeah. He's got, even though it's Arsenal, he's I mean,
this week, like we said, there are options. You've got Salah v Leeds, Kane v Bournemouth, Saka v West Ham. You could go for another City player and hope he outscores Haaland. With De Bruyne or Grealish. Mahrez, even. Mark's talking about potentially captaining Mahrez.
Yeah, no fair.
This week.
The thing is, any one of those people could outscore Haaland, but which one is it? Like, we know with Haaland, as long as he's on the pitch, he pretty much shits points. So, Haaland home to Leicester.
Where's my bleeper?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. This is PG friendly. Yeah, I suppose the only thing you could really argue again with Haaland is will he get reduced minutes? Like they've got the Champions League game away, but we've been here so many times this season. Even in the games he does get reduced minutes, he's probably scored 2 or 3 goals by the time he comes off. So I don't think it's as much of a factor, and I'd still put him down for
unless you
at least
really
70.
Unless you really don't think he starts. I think even 60 minutes of Haaland is still better than anyone else at the moment.
I would add, though, if he doesn't start this game and Alvarez does, for whatever reason, let's say Pep just decides to do it because he wants to do it, yes, Haaland could come on, but the reality is he's probably doing it to rest him for Bayern, so it wouldn't make sense to bring him on unless they needed him, and you would expect, even with Alvarez at home to Leicester, they would batter them.
Yep. What about rhythm? He loves rhythm.
Yeah, he does like rhythm. I mean, Haaland, I think we have been quite fortunate this season in the fact that we were told at the beginning of the season that Haaland would be rested if need be. He's not going to play every game. And I do think there is part of that where that would have happened. However, because of the injuries have come at times that have been almost convenient for Haaland in terms of he can give him that rest. They haven't even been like, I don't know how to explain it. They haven't been like, oh, he's ruled out for 6 weeks, definitely. They've always been injuries where, we're a little bit concerned about him. And then they've given him a little bit of time and not rushed him back. And that kind of happened again, like the 2 times that he's been injured. So it's almost like they've used him as rest periods. Like I feel like they probably could have played Haaland in those games if they wanted to. So it's just fallen nicely where he gets managed in game rather than any other way. He gets pulled up. I don't want to say it. He gets taken off early. I mean, he's got nice pigtails now. He gets taken off early, and
when he was flapping his hair around in the in the wind.
Did it do it for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was like a shampoo advert or something. It was glorious. Yeah, I mean the one good thing about bringing Haaland on in that match would be to see the look on Dean Smith's face with 5-0 down, and then Haaland's warming up on the bench. That would be something I'd quite like to see. Looking at some quick captain data, just in case you do want to back against Haaland this week. Well, I don't look at the season data because Haaland is well clear of that. But over the last 6 weeks, there's 3 players ahead of him: De Bruyne, Salah, and Watkins, all with a better XGI non-penalty per 90. Although Haaland is top for shots in the box and big chances per 90, which is always a bit of a concern with him. The likes of Grealish, Kane, Fernandes, Mahrez, all these players are quite a way down. I mean, look at Mahrez, no big chances per 90 over the last 6 game weeks, even in the sort of cameos he's played in or the reduced minutes. An extra 90 of 0.32, which is very low for him. How many starts has he had in the last 6?
Oh, I can't remember offhand.
Let me just check.
I think the thing with Mahrez that is the fact that I know he took the penalty when Haaland was on the pitch that time, but taking the penalties away from him, it's more likely Haaland play them does hurt him a little bit. And it's also the fact that in any given game, you can see Pep he doesn't always make subs, but if he does make subs, he can just do it on 57 minutes and just take a player off and just bring them, like we saw him do it with Stones the other day. I think that was a little bit because of his fitness, but also the yellow card. But he brought Mahrez off, I think, on 57 minutes the week before that, maybe.
Yeah, he's had 2 starts in the last 6 games.
Okay, and one of them he was subbed off pretty early, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, 55 minutes against Southampton, he was subbed.
There you go. So that's the thing with Mahrez. Like, he can be fantastic in the game, but if Mahrez doesn't do what he wants him to do in that game and he gets annoyed, he is definitely one of the ones Pep looks at and says, right, I'm bringing you off. Like, he gets frustrated with
his XGI against Southampton in 55 minutes was 0.04. That's how ineffective. I've never seen Mahrez that low down. In terms of that is crazy. I did not have a good game.
Yeah, no. But we know he can just change it around, and it's fair enough. That's just part of it. Mahrez has got a fantastic ceiling, but he's also got very comfortably could get a 1 point. Be that either subbed off on 57 or just not start and be brought on for the last 10 minutes. Like, it is a massive risk. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. Looking at the opponents, Leicester over the season are the worst defensive team. Expected goal, non-penalty gazebo 90 of 1.6. Leeds just below them, then Bournemouth, then Forest, then West Ham. Over the last 6, it's Leeds who are the worst. Obviously, that Palace game massively feeds into that. And then Bournemouth, and then West Ham, and then Leicester. Leicester actually second best out of these teams we're looking at. But they're still expected to concede 1.4 goals a game. Not a huge amount in it between these sides. But Bournemouth, this is why Kane is at least an intriguing option, because they are approaching 2 expected goals conceded every match. And it's Harry Kane. And he's got the 90 minutes sort of guaranteed. So I'll be interested to see how many people actually do it. I don't think it's going to be very many. I'm not going to do it. But
I looked at so expected goals conceded over the season. Bournemouth and Leicester are both on 30. It's 30.8 and 30.7, which is it's actually second and third worst. Everton are actually worse on 31. But yeah, both those teams, at least on a consistent basis over a large sample, have been terrible away from home. So yeah, I think it's fine if you wanted to be different and go for it. There's nothing that says for sure Haaland outscores Kane. It just seems far more likely to me that Haaland puts in 4 or 5 goals. That's just, I mean, he's shown it so many times. How many hat-tricks has he got this season?
Well, exactly. And City are just more capable of blowing a team away than Spurs are. I can't. If Spurs win that game 4 or 5-0, I'd be surprised. Whereas City win that game 4 or 5-0, I wouldn't be.
Yeah, I suppose there is that. You could see maybe Spurs just pulling a stinker and somehow Bournemouth winning that game, whereas it's very hard to see that.
There's no way Leicester are going to win that game.
Oh, don't say never. Strange things happen in football.
I'm saying it.
Didn't Norwich beat like City 3-2 once with like literally their B team?
That was hilarious.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah. That was hilarious. Cool. Right, let's take a look at our teams then. Let's take a look at yours first. So you've got the Rashford dilemma. You've also got Shaw in there as well. But seeing as you bench boosted a few weeks ago, your bench is obviously looking quite healthy. So you've got March on there, you've got Estepinian on there, you've got Botman on there as well. So I don't think it's panic stations for you, right?
No, I mean the original plan was to do Raya to Ederson, my best mate, and suffer suffer pain again, but get him in early and hopefully benefit off the good fixtures and the double and have that reliable. I can definitely say he plays. But now with the injuries to Rashford and Shaw, I don't know, because I missed today, because like I say, I was at work and I've skipped a lot. But what was the news on Shaw? Do we think he's likely to play or not?
I think Ten Hag said that he's close. He said he's closer than... He's out of Thursday, but he's close. Something like that.
All right, well, what the hell does that mean? Okay, so if he doesn't play, Estupiñán or Botman are fine to come in. I think we'll hold him because keeping him for 34 makes sense, I guess, if he is going to come back in time. I'm okay to just take that on the chin. The Rashford one, I'm less confident on. Wasn't the quote something like he could be back for the final few weeks or something like that on the Manchester United site? Or for the run-in or something along those lines? That feels like one that could end up dragging on to me. And it's not ideal because I think you really want him in 34 if he was available. So I think the obvious answer for me is just to move him to Grealish, which is nearly what everyone else is probably considering. So
the words Ten Hag used, which has caused a bit of unrest in the community, is that he's out for a few games. That's what he said about Rashford. Right.
And I think though someone shared a screenshot with me on the Man United website that it was a little bit different, but whether that was, I don't think it was a direct quote. It might have been their own version of his words and what they thought they meant. Yeah, and said we'll be back for
that's all we've got from Ten Hag, so that's kind of the key.
Right. Okay, so that's probably more important. Yeah. I mean, if he's back for 34 and he's fit and he's available and he's in the team, which could happen, then I guess I just address it at that point. That's the way I'm looking at this, and I think I'm going to have to, because I could just play March. Right, March could easily do very well versus Chelsea.
Yeah,
I could do that. I'm not 100% decided, but I'm currently erring on the side of getting Grealish for Rashford and just banking on Man City absolutely thrashing Leicester.
Yep. So that would give you Raya, Chilwell, Trippier, one of Estupiñán and Botman, Salah, Fernandes, Matoma, Grealish, Haaland, captain, Isak, and Watkins. Lovely. Let's take a look at Mark's team that he kindly sent over. He's got Kepa and James. He's got Trippier and Botman. He's got McAllister, Rashford, Fernandes, Saka, Watkins, Kane, and Brennan is still looking around, despite Forest being the worst attack in the league currently. He's benching Chilwell, he's benching Maddison, he's benching Shaw. I feel like he's a bit all over the place at the moment. He is thinking of bringing in Mahrez and captaining him.
I mean, I respect it. He's going for it. He's already talked about being different in Hail Marys, and that is a hell of a one. So he's not even going to own Haaland. He's
thinking about Haaland. He's got two potential moves. He doesn't want to lose Kane essentially, but I think he has to lose Kane if he's going to get Haaland because he can't really afford to do it any other way. So it's either do Kane to Haaland or try and cover him with someone like Mahrez.
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Yeah, I mean, if he goes Rashford to Mahrez, we all know what he's like. He could end up getting nothing or he could end up blowing them apart and it could be world star. So I wish him the best of luck with that. I at least think he probably starts. So that's a good thing, I suppose.
I'd tell a lie. He is thinking of a -4 because he has got 2 free transfers. So he could do Chilwell to a Brighton defender, Maddison to Mahrez, and then Watkins out for Haaland. That was another option he sent me.
Right, okay. So for a -8, was that?
That's a -4. He's got 2 frees.
Oh, okay. Well,
losing Watkins, I don't like that either, really.
It's because he's got double Newcastle defence, isn't it? So he's making that bet that they managed to get a clean sheet.
Yeah, lots of different ways he could go, really. The Mahrez route, the Haaland route, selling Kane for Haaland. Probably won't completely rule that out because that's the easiest one for him.
Can he not do Johnson to Haaland somehow and sell Fernandes and Rashford to fund it? And just bank against Man United and hope that Fernandes is playing DM? Because Rashford's not even
maybe.
playing.
But I mean, that involves keeping Maddison, keeping the double Chelsea defence.
Well, maybe Maddison instead of Rashford or whatever if you bank on him coming back. Ooh. I don't know.
He's got a few issues.
Tricky.
Yeah.
I wish him the best of luck. That's all I'll say.
If only he had a wild card like me. Woo! So this is the wildcard team that I've put together. It's De Gea in goal with Everson as the 3.8 non-playing goalkeeper. So it'd be De Gea every week until the end of the season, which isn't really ideal because he doesn't really get big hauls, but he's got those extra games. It's Trippier, Ake, Dunk, and then Martinez and Moreno. So ultra cheap, really. in defence as well. I've gone for Dunk over Estepinian just because we've got a lot of games coming, and we've got the FA Cup as well. I think Estepinian probably misses out once minimum, maybe a couple, especially because he has dropped a couple of howlers over the last couple of months as well. Dunk's just that completely reliable, nailed-on player who I think I want. So he's in. Then it's Salah, Grealish, Martinelli and Matoma. And I've swapped McAllister to March, which my dad will be happy about. He's been banging on about getting March for ages. And then Haaland, Watkins, Kane up top. So it's the triple with Salah, Haaland and Kane. I've kept Watkins. I've got Grealish and Martinelli in. The only sacrifice I've really made here, I think,
Sorry, trying to stop you mid-flow. When are you free hitting, or have you already used
next week, 32.
So you're still free hitting 32?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Because then I can get out the 3 City. I can get out the Brighton, because I've got 3 City, 3 Brighton, and De Gea. So that's 7 players missing. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't think this is going to change. The best thing about this, well, maybe not the best thing, but the kind of, I don't know what the word is, the insurance policy is I've got enough money in the bank to do Martinelli to Rashford if he is back for that double as well.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of forward planning in there as
Martial?
well. I'm not going back there again.
Just going to throw some names at you. To tell you what, in the background, that's why I was being quiet. I know you love using algorithms, so I thought I'd throw it in and did it very quickly. And Martial comes out in the front 3 alongside Haaland and Watkins instead of Kane. I take it that's something you've not considered at all at any point.
After the World Cup, I went with Martial because I just thought United haven't got a striker and he's going to do really well, and and he was beyond awful.
But does that mean anything?
Well, they went out and bought. They went out and bought Weghorst. I don't know. I don't trust him. I don't trust him to reliably score goals or points.
I don't know about that part. I think the minutes thing is a very valid concern.
I don't know how United are going to be without Rashford. The minutes as well with Weghorst. I don't really trust him, consistently anyway. Nah, he's not for me.
I'll give you one other name that's popped up then, because the team is actually incredibly like your team. Is it? The midfield is pretty much exact. It's got McAllister instead of March. Yeah, I think that's the only difference. Wait, you've got Martinelli. It's got Bruno Fernandes. That's the difference there. In defence, this is surprising actually. So it has got Martinez. It's gone Edison route instead, but it's got Martinez. It's got Trent already in there, and it's got Pedro Porro in there.
Wow.
So it's gone for those 2 attacking defenders that are right near the top.
Pedro Porro.
Yeah, I didn't expect to see that one. This is with free hit 32 in mind as well, so it's taken that into account.
Yeah. I mean, the players that I'd like but can't have are Chilwell and Trent, really. Obviously, if I could afford those over Dunk, I would.
Well, what would be your plan then to get Trent if you felt like you needed him for 34 or you wanted him out the window?
It's downgrading Kane. So Kane down to a Nunez, and then someone up to Trent.
Okay. I can't really fault it. I think it's great. I wanted to.
People aren't going to like that, Luke. They're not going to like that.
I think it's great. I mean, I'm not sure about the Man United double defence. That's the one I'll be like, not sure, but it's maybe go for the Pedro Porro then, or is he you just can't afford it? Presumably you're at max budget right now.
No, well, not if I want to have that money in the bank for Rashford potentially. Then I can only afford a max of 4.5, and that's why Martinez seems the best option. Someone
in the chat saying Jesus as a wild punt.
Yeah, could be, but who do I lose out of those 3? I want Kane for Bournemouth. I'm not losing Watkins, given how he's playing, and I'm definitely not losing Haaland. So,
no, fair.
Yeah.
I mean, the one thing I think you touched on it before though is like, it is good and it looks like better than my team, I think, as a wild card. But hopefully we kind of all got very similar to that team come 34, and that was the reason to use the wild card a bit earlier. Yeah. So in hindsight, do you wish you'd done that? Because it does kind of look pretty similar to the teams we're all
probably. I mean, I think people are going to find it hard to have the 3. There's not going to be many teams with the 3 premiums. If this week Salah, Haaland and Kane all go off, which they're all capable of, there's not going to be many teams that have got those 3. So, and I think if people are going to be moving to Salah, like a lot are, they're going to have to sell Kane and downgrade that to quite a cheap striker to be able to do that. Whereas I won't have to. I can just downgrade Kane to someone else. So I think if those 3 can deliver over the next few weeks, then I'll be right.
Nice. It'll be exciting going into that game. It'll be hilarious, though, if Pep does decide to just bench all the Man City assets. I don't think it's going to happen, but it'll be...
it will sum it up. It will sum it up if he does. Absolutely.
No, I think you'll be all right. I think you'll be okay.
Right, your kids are back, so we will wrap this up.
You noticed that, did you, straight away?
Yeah. Professional as always, Luke. It's fine. We're nearly done. 2 minutes. BlackBox League. Just a shout out to Ali Janagrov, our mate. I don't know if he's in the chat. He normally is. He is still top. 68 points for him this week. Flying high. Going for that number 1 spot. Got Johan Howes Owen in 2nd. Oystein Valovic in 3rd. Mark Bleakley in 4th. A bit of a change in 5th, 6th and 7th. Fred Foley, Vicky Davis and Arav Mendirata had good weeks. So they've gone up the ranks. Vinnie Kang and Chris Glover have both dropped down. And Tom Abidell in 61. Good scores, though, for all of the top 10. Just Vinnie Kang, really, less than 60. So they'll be happy with how that league is going for them. Not to forget the charity that we're supporting. Luke Johnston, the Just Giving charity, trying to raise funds for his vaccine. Member of the FPL community, had surgery on a brain tumour recently. Do check out the description, read his story, and if you can afford to donate anything or want to contribute in any way, contact Gianni Battici or give on that Just Giving page as well. Obviously, all the donations massively appreciated, and BlackBox is supporting that as best we can too. I think that's it. Luke, thank you so much for joining me. It's like when I messaged you and I was like, well, can you join me until the end of the season? I was just like, nah, mate, sorry, I can't work, kids, life, too stressful. But straight away, you were like, yes, I'm in. Let me check with the missus.
Yeah, no, I always want to do it if I can do it. It's just finding the time, but hopefully, well, I was going to say my fixtures then, my shift pattern, my fixtures of my.
You do
my
think you're a footballer?
Exactly, yeah, training every day is an obvious. It's worked out pretty well, so hopefully I can be in for the end of the season. Yep. Obviously, I can't replace the great man, but I shall do my best.
You do a pretty good job. You do a very good job. So that was supposed to sound quite nice, but it actually sounded a bit.
I took it that way.
Oh, good. Thanks everyone for watching. Go enjoy the Champions League now. Chelsea are kicking off. Do give this stream a like though if you've enjoyed it. Again, another plug. Do give us a review on any of the podcast platforms if you're listening to it on there. Do give us a comment on YouTube as well. And do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But Luke and I will hopefully be back next week, and I'll be celebrating a bumper score on my wildcard.
I love that. Ooh. I think you will. I think you're going to get a good score.
Thanks, mate. Wow, that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
It probably is.
What a wholesome way to end the stream. Luke, we'll be back next week, and thank you, everyone, and we'll see you soon.
See you guys.